Before we begin, this broadcast is a fictional audio drama created for entertainment purposes. Good evening, I'm John Vale. We're coming on a little earlier than planned tonight because of a developing story that at first sounded like, well, honestly, it sounded like a technical issue. And I want to say that right up front. Nobody here is claiming the sky is falling. Nobody here is asking you to panic. Nobody here is asking you to run outside and stare up at the stars like something is about to come down. But we do have a situation that has now been confirmed by enough separate observatories that we cannot treat it as a single malfunction anymore. About 40 minutes ago, the Northridge Optical Array issued what they called a limited scope observation notice. That is not an emergency alert. It is not the kind of thing most people would ever hear about. It usually goes to astronomers, research institutions, data partners, university observatories, and sometimes private telescope networks. The notice was very simple. 3 catalog stars in the northern sky were not visible, not dimmed, not obscured by clouds, not misidentified, not temporarily lost because of atmospheric distortion. They were, according to the first report, absent. Now, that word is doing a lot of work tonight, and I want to be careful with it. Stars do not just go missing from the sky, not in the way a car goes missing from a parking lot, not in the way a plane drops off radar. Stars are not small local objects that can vanish because somebody misplaced a signal. So when the first notice came in, most people who saw it assumed it was a calibration error, a software issue, a tracking problem, maybe a catalog mismatch, maybe the wrong coordinates had been entered into the system, something boring, something fixable. That was the assumption. Then the second observatory checked, then a third, then an amateur astronomy group in Alberta confirmed they could not see the same 3 stars through 2 independent backyard telescope setups. Then a university facility in northern Sweden reported the same thing. Then a private sky survey in Chile, which should not have had the same atmospheric conditions, reported the same stars missing from archival comparison frames. So that is where we are starting tonight, not with disaster, not with confirmation of anything supernatural or hostile or world-ending. We are starting with 3 missing points of light, 3 stars that should be there and are not. Now, we have Mara Ellison with us tonight as well. Mara, I know you've been going through some of the statements that came in during the last half hour. What are officials actually saying right now?
John, the most important thing is that they are not calling this an emergency yet. That may change. I don't know. But right now, the language is still very controlled. The phrase we're seeing again and again is unresolved observational discrepancy. That's the phrase being used by the Northridge team, by the Heliospheric Monitoring Office, and by several university astronomy departments that have reposted or acknowledged the alert. But the thing that stands out to me is that they are asking observatories not to speculate publicly until the coordinates have been independently rechecked. That sounds calm on paper. In practice, it means they are worried about people jumping to conclusions before they understand what's happening. And I think that's fair. I also think, just speaking like a person here, not like someone trying to decode agency language, it is very strange to hear scientists ask other scientists not to speculate about missing stars. That sentence should not feel normal, and it does not feel normal. We've also seen a few messages from listeners already. Some people are saying they went outside and everything looks normal. That is expected. Most people cannot identify specific catalog stars by eye. These are not all bright, famous stars. These are not stars most people would point to and name. So if you are outside right now and you look up and you think the sky looks fine, that does not contradict the reports. It just means this is still small enough or distant enough or technical enough that ordinary human eyes are not the best instrument, at least not yet.
Right, and that last part matters, at least not yet. Again, I don't want to get ahead of the facts. We are going to stay with confirmed information as much as we can tonight. Here is what we know. The first missing stars were identified in a region near the constellation Draco. I'm going to avoid giving exact coordinates for now because we're already seeing people online posting incorrect sky maps and telling others to look in the wrong direction. That's not helpful. It just creates noise. But the general area is northern sky, high declination, visible from a large portion of the northern hemisphere. Under clear conditions, the stars were present in survey images taken yesterday. They are not present in images taken tonight. That is the part that has people paying attention. Because when astronomers say a star has gone out, most of the time they do not mean it disappeared between dinner and bedtime. They mean some event happened in the past, very far away, and the light reaching us changed. Or they mean something was detected in a certain wavelength and not another, or they mean a star dimmed over time. But this is not being described as dimming. The early reports say there is no visible transition, no gradual fade in the available data, no known object passing in front of them, no dust cloud, no expected occultation, no instrument saturation, no atmospheric interference. They were visible. Now they are not. That is the simple version. And simple does not mean comforting. We are also getting reports that the International Sky Archive has locked public uploads for that sector while it reviews duplicate submissions. That sounds dramatic, but it may just be data hygiene. When a lot of people start uploading images of the same area at once, systems can get flooded with mislabeled files, false positives, edited images, or just bad observations. So, again, that does not mean a cover-up. It does not mean anything like that. It means the archive is trying to keep the data clean. Still, I understand how that sounds. I do. You hear stars missing, then you hear public uploads locked, and the mind goes to bad places. That is why we are going to take this slowly. We are now waiting on a combined statement from the Northridge Optical Array, the Meridian University Observatory Network, and the Heliospheric Monitoring Office. We were told that statement could arrive within the next few minutes. Until then, we're going to stay with what has been verified. 3 missing stars, multiple confirmations, no official explanation, no public safety warning. That is the box we are in right now, and it is already a strange box. I want to read one listener message because I think it captures the mood better than I can. This is from Daniel in Vermont. He writes, I don't know the stars they're talking about. I couldn't find Draco if someone paid me, but I went outside anyway, and I felt stupid for doing it, and then I felt scared because I realized I was checking whether the sky was still there. Yeah, that's a very human reaction. And I think a lot of people are probably doing some version of that tonight. You hear something impossible maybe happening somewhere above you, and even if you don't understand it, even if you can't see it, you go outside anyway, just to check, just to make sure the ceiling is still where it belongs. We have Mara following live messages and institutional feeds. Mara, before we get that statement, can you explain why 3 stars would matter this much? Because I think some listeners may be wondering, okay, there are billions of stars. Why is this not just a weird footnote?
Right, and that's the natural question. 3 stars by themselves would not change anyone's daily life. Nobody's power goes out because 3 distant stars are not visible. Nobody's phone stops working, nobody's car stops, nobody's house gets colder. So the fear is not about those 3 stars as objects. The fear is about what it means if the observation is real. Because stars are reliable in a way almost nothing else is reliable. They move, yes, but they move according to rules. They change, yes, but usually over timescales and processes we can study. Even when something dramatic happens in space, there is evidence, there is radiation, there is debris, there is a light curve, there is some physical trail. What is making scientists careful tonight is the lack of a trail. It's like walking into a room and seeing that 3 lamps are off, but the bulbs are fine, the wiring is fine, the switch is still on, and nobody touched anything. You would not panic because 3 lamps are off. You would worry because the reason is missing. And I think that is the emotional piece here, too. People trust the night sky because it feels bigger than us. It feels outside of our problems. You can have the worst day of your life, and then you look up and Orion is still there, or the Big Dipper is still there, or the same bright point you saw as a kid is still in the same place. There is comfort in that. So when someone says, even technically, even cautiously, some of the lights are missing, it hits a very old part of the mind, not the scientific part. The part that says the dark is supposed to have holes in it, and tonight a few of those holes are gone.
That is very well said. And we just received the statement. I'm going to read it now. This is from the Northridge Optical Array, Meridian University Observatory Network, and the Heliospheric Monitoring Office. It is marked preliminary and time-sensitive. Quote, at 21:14 Eastern Standard Time, 3 catalog objects in the Draco observational region failed to resolve across multiple optical platforms. Independent confirmation has now been received from 11 observation sites, including both professional and civilian instruments. Current analysis does not support cloud cover, atmospheric distortion, sensor damage, tracking error, catalog misalignment, or known occultation as sufficient explanations. Continuing, additional review of archival comparison images confirms that the affected objects were visible in prior observations within the last 24 hours. At this time, there is no evidence of stellar explosion, collapse, gravitational lensing, or expected transient event associated with the missing optical sources. And then the final paragraph We advise all observation partners to continue monitoring adjacent sectors and to preserve all raw imaging data. The public is advised that this is an astronomical observation issue only. There is no known threat to life, infrastructure, satellites, navigation systems, communications networks, or planetary safety. End quote. Okay, so that is the official statement. No known threat, but also no known explanation. And I want to stress both halves of that equally. No known threat, no known explanation. Those are not the same thing. They are both true right now. We are going to take a brief pause from reading statements and reset for anyone just joining us. You are listening to Fictional Radio. I'm John Vale here with Mara Ellison. The developing story tonight is that 3 catalog stars in the northern sky in the region near Draco are no longer visible through multiple independent observatories. The disappearance has now been confirmed by 11 observation sites. Officials are calling it an astronomical observation issue, only there is no public safety warning at this time. That is where things stand, and I know that sounds almost too calm for what the words are saying. 3 stars are missing, but everything is fine. That is essentially the shape of the message right now. We will keep following it. We have another update coming in now. This is not from the official joint statement. This is from the Alder Lake Radio Observatory. I want to read this carefully because it is not optical. This is radio band observation. They are saying the same 3 sources are also not resolving in expected radio signatures. Let me say that in plain language. It is not just that the stars are no longer visible as light. At least one radio observatory is now saying the expected radio data associated with that region is also absent. Now, I do not want to overstate that stars are not all strong radio sources in the way people might imagine. This does not necessarily mean the stars themselves have stopped existing. It means expected signals from that section of sky are not matching prior observations. But the fact that this is not limited to optical telescopes is important. That makes the equipment error explanation harder. Not impossible, harder. Mara, are you seeing anyone else confirm that yet?
Not officially. I'm seeing 2 researchers mention that they are checking non-optical data, but they are not making claims yet. And John, there's another thing happening online that we should probably address. A lot of people are already using the phrase, the stars are going out. That is not what officials have said. They have said several catalog objects are not resolving. They have said missing optical sources. They have said absent from current imaging. Those are colder phrases, less scary phrases. More precise phrases, but people are going to say the stars are going out because that is what it feels like. And we should be careful not to repeat it as fact at the same time. I don't think we can ignore why people are saying it, because for most of us, a star is either there or it isn't. And tonight, 3 of them are not.
Right, and I appreciate that distinction. We are not saying the stars are going out. We are saying 3 expected points of light are not currently visible or detectable in the way they should be. That is the careful version. The human version is what everyone is already thinking. We have a producer telling me there is a new image circulating from the Westford College Observatory. We are trying to verify whether it is authentic. I am not going to describe it yet until we know what we're looking at. There are already fake images out there. Some of them are obvious. Some of them are just old sky photos being reposted with dramatic captions. Some are AI generated. Some are probably people trying to be funny, which I would just say this is not the night for that. If you're listening and posting fake sky maps, please stop. That sounds like a small thing, but in a moment like this, false information spreads faster than corrections. It wastes time for scientists. It scares people who don't need to be scared, and it makes it harder for everyone to understand what is actually happening. So just don't. Look up if you want. Take a picture if you want, but don't invent things. The truth is strange enough tonight. Okay, the Westford image has now been confirmed by 2 faculty members at the college. It appears to show the Draco region compared against an image from the same instrument taken last week. The 3 missing stars are marked, but there is something else. I'm going to be careful here. There appears to be a 4th missing point in the comparison frame that is not in the original notice. 1 more star. We are trying to determine whether that 4th object is a catalog star, a processing artifact, or something else. But the image as posted by the observatory appears to show 4 missing points of light, not 3. Again, that is not yet in an official statement, but the image is real. The institution has confirmed they posted it. 4 missing points. Possibly. Mara, I'm watching the same image now. Are you seeing what I'm seeing?
Yes. And the thing that bothers me is not just the 4th point, it's the spacing. I know we are not astronomers sitting here with measuring tools, so I don't want to pretend we can analyze a sky image live on the air, but visually the missing points are not clustered tightly together. They make a line, not a perfect line, maybe, but close enough that people are going to notice. And I'm already seeing people notice. There are posts saying it looks like something is moving across the background. There are posts saying it looks like a tear. We do not know that. But I can understand why people are reacting that way. Because if one star is missing, maybe it's a star problem. If four are missing, maybe it's an observation problem. If four are missing in a line, people start imagining a shape between us and them. And that is where this gets frightening very quickly.
Yes, that is exactly where we need to slow down. A line does not automatically mean an object. A pattern does not automatically mean intent. Humans are very good at seeing shapes and noise, sometimes too good. That's how we get constellations in the first place. We connect dots and tell stories about them. Tonight we are looking at missing dots, and we may be doing the same thing, so let's not jump there yet. But yes, the fourth possible missing star changes the mood. It changes the room here, honestly. You can feel it. A few minutes ago, people were moving around normally, papers, screens, coffee, producers checking feeds. Now everyone is quieter, because four is not just more than three. Four means the first report may already be outdated. And that is what we are now watching. Not just whether stars are missing, whether more are becoming missing while we are on the air. We have another listener message. This one is from Priya in New Jersey. She writes, "My daughter is 7. She asked me if stars can die. I told her yes, but not tonight. Please tell me I didn't lie." Priya, I'm going to answer that as carefully as I can. You did not lie. Stars can die, yes. But there is no evidence right now that the missing stars died tonight. There is no evidence of danger to your daughter. There is no instruction for families to do anything different right now. You gave your child comfort in a confusing moment. That is not lying. That is parenting. And honestly, all of us are trying to do some version of that tonight, trying to tell each other what is true without handing fear to people who cannot use it. We are now several minutes past the first joint statement, and we are seeing more observatories join the monitoring effort. The East Carson Array, the Valence Deep Sky Survey, the New Athens University Skylab, and several smaller private observatories have all announced they are imaging the same region. We should know more soon. Again, if you are just joining us, 4 possible missing stars now, 3 officially confirmed, 1 additional point shown in a confirmed Westford College Observatory image, not yet formally classified. No public safety warning, no explanation. And the night is still young. We're back. I'm John Vale. You're listening to Fictional Radio. If you are just joining us, we are following a developing astronomical observation issue involving a small but growing number of missing stars in the northern sky. And I know that sentence sounds impossible. I know, but that is the most accurate plain language version of where things stand. At the beginning of this broadcast, 3 catalog stars in the Draco region were confirmed absent from multiple observation platforms. A 4th possible missing star was then identified in a confirmed comparison image from Westford College Observatory. We now have an update from the Meridian University Observatory Network. I'm reading this as it comes in. They are confirming the 4th missing object, so the number is no longer 3. It is 4 catalog stars, all visible in prior observation sets within the last 24 hours, are now not resolving in current optical imaging. And there is more. The statement says, give me 1 second here. Okay, the statement says 2 additional catalog objects in an adjacent field are under review after unexpected non-resolution across preliminary imaging runs. That means there may be 6, 4 confirmed, 2 possible. I want to say that again because it is important to be exact. 4 confirmed missing catalog stars, 2 more under review. No official explanation, no public safety warning. That is the current status. I'm going to take a breath here because I think sometimes when you're covering something live, the words start moving faster than the mind can actually process them. 4 stars are gone from where they should be, possibly 6. And that does not mean they have been destroyed. It does not mean there is an object nearby. It does not mean anything is coming here. It does not mean the atmosphere is changing. It does not mean the Earth is in danger. It does not mean the Earth is in danger. But it also does not mean nothing. And that is the difficult part. We are in that uncomfortable middle space where the responsible thing is not to panic, and the honest thing is not to pretend this is normal. It is not normal. It is not understood, and it is still developing. Mara, I want to bring you in here because we are seeing a lot of listener messages now, and I'm sure a lot of them are similar. What are people asking
The question we are seeing most is very simple. Can I see it? People want to know whether they can go outside and look up and see the missing stars for themselves. And the answer is mostly no, not yet, unless you know exactly where to look and have the right equipment. These are catalog stars. Some are faint, some are not part of the famous shapes most people recognize. So if you step outside tonight, especially if you are near city lights, you may not notice anything different. And that might feel reassuring. It might also feel frustrating because people want their eyes to confirm what they are hearing. But this is one of those things where human eyes are not the first witness. Instruments are. The second question is whether this is happening only over one part of the world. And no. Based on what we have so far, this is not local. Observatories in different regions, different countries, and different hemispheres are reporting the same missing sources when they look at the same part of the sky. So this is not weather over one area. This is not smoke. This is not local light pollution. This is not one telescope dome failing to open properly. Whatever the explanation ends up being, it has to account for different observers seeing the same absence. And I want to pause on that word too. Absence. That is the word that keeps coming up tonight. Not flare, not burst, not explosion, not signal. Absence. There is something uniquely frightening about an event defined by what is not there. It gives your mind too much room.
Yeah, that is exactly right. Events usually give us something to look at. A storm has clouds, a fire has smoke, a blackout has dark neighborhoods, a flood has water where water should not be. This is the opposite. This is information being removed, and we are trying to describe the shape of something by the holes it leaves behind. We have a short note now from the Heliospheric Monitoring Office, and this one is worth reading in full. Quote, "We are aware of public concern regarding recent astronomical reports. At this time, no abnormal solar activity has been detected. Earth-orbiting satellite operations remain nominal. Navigation, communications, power infrastructure, aviation routing, and maritime positioning systems are not affected. There is no indication of a near-Earth object, debris field, or solar event associated with the reported stellar non-resolution." End quote. That is the calming part. No abnormal solar activity. Satellites nominal, navigation normal. No near-Earth object. So if you are listening in a car, if you are at home, if you are working a night shift, if you're in a hospital, an airport, a train station, a dorm room, wherever you are, the systems around you are still functioning. The phones still work. The power is still on. The roads are still roads. The world at ground level has not changed, and maybe that is why this feels so strange. Because the world below is normal, but the world above is not. We are receiving word that the International Astronomical Union has requested raw data packages from all participating observatories. That is expected. That is standard for something like this, if there is such a thing as standard for something like this. They are also asking amateur astronomers to submit unedited files with location, time, lens information, weather conditions, and exposure details. If you are an amateur astronomer listening right now, please do not alter your images before sending them. Do not add labels. Do not sharpen, do not enhance, do not crop unless the submission form asks for it. Raw data matters. And I'll add something else. Please do not put yourself in danger trying to get a better sky view tonight. We are already seeing reports of people pulling over on highways, walking into dark fields alone, climbing onto roofs, going into restricted areas, trying to get away from city lights. Do not do that. A missing star is not worth falling off a roof. A missing star is not worth getting hit on the shoulder of a road. This is being monitored by people with proper equipment. You do not need to become a field researcher tonight. Just stay safe. Look up from somewhere safe if you need to, but stay safe. Okay, we have something from East Carson. This is preliminary. East Carson Array is reporting that one of the two possible additional missing objects is now confirmed in their optical data. So that brings the number to 5 confirmed missing catalog stars. The second additional object remains under review. Let me check the time on this. This was posted less than 30 seconds ago. 5 confirmed, 1 under review. And the map, we're looking at the internal map now. The missing points appear to extend along the same general direction as the earlier ones. Again, I am not calling that a line. I am not calling that a track. But the new point is not random looking. That is not a scientific phrase, obviously. Not random looking is not something you put in a report. But on the screen in front of me, that is what it feels like. It feels arranged. And I don't like saying that because arranged implies someone or something arranging it. We do not know that. We do not know that. But the word is sitting there. Mara, I see you looking at something. What do you have?
A listener sent us a message with a photo of a handwritten sky chart from her father. This is not data. I want to say that first. This is not something we use as evidence. But it is human, and I think it matters. He was an amateur astronomer for most of his life. He kept notebooks of what he saw from his backyard, dates, weather, moon phase, little drawings of star fields. She wrote, "My dad used to say the sky was the one thing that always waited for you. You could ignore it for months, and when you came back, it would still be there. I don't know what to do with the idea that it might not wait. Not in danger, maybe, not officially, but unsettled in a place deeper than logic. Because the sky is one of the oldest forms of stability human beings have, before maps, before clocks, before radio, before anything like this, people looked up to know where they were. And now we are hearing that a few fixed points are no longer fixed. That does not just bother scientists. It bothers memory. It bothers childhood. It bothers navigation in the emotional sense."
That's a good way to put it, navigation in the emotional sense. And I think that is why we're going to see public reaction grow, even if the number stays small. Because people don't need to know the name of a star to feel that the sky should not change quickly. We have an update from Meridian again. I'm going to read this carefully. They are now advising partner observatories to widen their imaging beyond the Draco region. The exact wording is, adjacent field expansion is advised in all directions with priority toward Ursa Minor and Cepheus boundaries. That means they are no longer only checking the original patch of sky. They are looking outward. They are trying to see whether the affected region is spreading or whether they simply did not look far enough the first time. That distinction matters. If you find more missing stars because you widen the search, it may mean they were already missing and you just hadn't checked them yet. If you find stars disappearing in areas that were normal minutes ago, that is different. We do not know which one this is. But they are widening the search. We are going to keep this broadcast live as long as we have meaningful updates. Again, no public safety warning, no ground level impact, but we are now watching multiple scientific networks coordinate in real time over an unexplained astronomical absence. That is the phrase I keep coming back to. Unexplained astronomical absence. It sounds too neat. It sounds like it should belong in a paper 5 years from now, not in a live broadcast at night while people are standing in their yards looking up. Okay, we just got a correction from Westford College Observatory. The correction does not reduce the number, it increases concern. They say the fourth object they identified earlier was not actually visible in their most recent frame either, which we knew, but their corrected comparison indicates it was still visible in an image taken just under 2 hours ago. That narrows the window, so at least one of the missing stars did not vanish sometime in the last day. It was visible less than 2 hours ago. Now it is not. That is new. That is important. We're going to wait for another institution to confirm that before we lean too hard on it, but that is what Westford is saying, visible less than 2 hours ago. Now, absent, there is a silence in the studio right now that I want to acknowledge because you can probably hear it in my voice. This is the first update tonight that makes the timeline feel active. Until now, we could imagine that the stars disappeared sometime between yesterday and tonight, and we happened to notice. That was strange enough, but a 2-hour window suggests this may be happening while people are watching, and that changes the story, not officially, emotionally, practically. Scientifically, they will confirm, test, compare, reject bad data, do all the things they should do. But for everyone else, the thought is now very simple. What if the next one goes while we are looking? Mara,
I'm here. And I think people are having exactly that reaction. Our message feed just changed. It was questions before. Now it is mostly people saying where they are and what they can see. I'm in Maine, sky is clear. I'm in Ohio, too much cloud cover. I don't know what I'm looking at. That last one is everywhere. I don't know what I'm looking at. And I think that line says almost everything. Most people do not know the technical sky. They know the emotional sky. They know bright stars, familiar shapes, the moon, maybe Venus when it is visible. They know the feeling of looking up. So now millions of people may be looking at something they cannot interpret, listening to strangers tell them that something is missing from it. That is a very vulnerable position to put a public in, and I think officials know that. That may be why the statements are so careful. They are trying not to start a panic over a phenomenon that has not touched the ground. But fear does not always wait for impact. Sometimes fear starts when certainty breaks.
fear starts when certainty breaks. Yes. We have another official update. This one is from the International Astronomical Union's Emergency Coordination Desk. They do not use the word emergency lightly, by the way. That does not mean public emergency. It means scientific coordination. I'm reading reports of non-resolved catalog objects have now been received from 32 verified observing stations. The affected sources currently number 5 confirmed, with 7 additional sources under investigation. Affected sources occupy a narrow but expanding observational band. No associated high-energy transient event has been detected. 5 confirmed, 7 under investigation, a narrow but expanding observational band. That phrase is going to be repeated a lot, narrow but expanding observational band. They are seeing a band, not just isolated missing stars, a band. Okay, I want to be careful. This does not mean there is a physical band in the sky. This means the missing stars on a map fall along a band. It is a pattern in the data, but patterns in data can become patterns in the sky if enough of them appear. And that may be what we are moving toward. Let me reset again. You're listening to Fictional Radio. I'm John Vale, here with Mara Ellison. We are covering an unexplained astronomical event involving missing catalog stars first reported in the Draco region. The number of confirmed missing stars is now 5, with 7 more under investigation. The affected sources appear to occupy what officials are calling a narrow but expanding observational band. There is no public safety warning. There is no confirmed threat to Earth. There is no known effect on satellites, communications, navigation, power, or weather. But the event appears to be ongoing. That is the latest. We are going to bring in by phone Dr. Lena Orsic, an observational astronomer who has worked on deep sky survey verification. Dr. Orsic, thank you for joining us on very short notice.
Of course.
I want to start as simply as possible. When officials say a star is not resolving, what does that mean?
It means the instrument is pointed where the object should be, and the expected source does not appear above the detection threshold. In ordinary language, the telescope looks at the correct spot and does not see the star.
And how often does that happen for normal reasons?
For one instrument, fairly often. For many instruments in different locations with different methods looking at the same targets, much less often.
Does this mean the stars themselves are gone?
Not necessarily. That would not be my first conclusion. A star disappearing physically is not the same thing as its light no longer reaching us. We have to distinguish between the object and the observation.
Okay, so what could stop the light from reaching us?
Many things, in theory. Dust, intervening objects, instrumental problems, data processing problems, atmospheric problems, catalog errors. But each of those has signatures. Dust usually affects wavelengths in certain ways. An occulting body would have geometry and timing. Instrument issues would not match across independent systems. Catalog errors would not usually affect objects recently confirmed in archival frames.
So when you hear narrow but expanding observational band, what does that suggest to you?
It suggests they are seeing spatial structure. That does not mean artificial structure. It does not mean intent. But it means the missing sources are not randomly scattered.
Is there a natural phenomenon that can erase a band of stars from our view this quickly?
Erase is not the word I would use.
Fair.
Block, obscure, overwhelm, mismeasure, those are possibilities. But quickly, cleanly, across multiple wavelengths and multiple observing stations, that is difficult.
Difficult as in rare?
Difficult as in I would want much more data before giving the public a confident explanation.
Dr. Orsic, should people be afraid?
People should be attentive. Fear is not useful yet. We have no evidence of a local hazard. But I will not insult your listeners by saying this is ordinary. It is not ordinary.
That was Dr. Lena Orsic, observational astronomer. And I think her last line is probably the most responsible sentence of the night so far. No evidence of a local hazard, not ordinary. Both can be true. We now have reports that the phrase missing stars is trending across most major social platforms. That is expected. We are also seeing several government science agencies asking people not to spread unverified claims. There are already claims that entire constellations have vanished, that is, not confirmed. Claims that the moon has changed color, not confirmed claims that planets are gone, not confirmed claims that this is a secret military test. No, please just know the sky is fake. No, please just know the sky is not fake because 5 stars are missing. The sky is real. That may actually be the frightening part. This is happening in the real sky Okay, hold on. We have a new bulletin from the Heliospheric Monitoring Office. This is marked urgent for observation partners, not public emergency, urgent for observation partners. It says additional non-resolutions confirmed in Cepheus adjacent sector, confirmed affected sources now total 12. Distribution is consistent with a continuous obstruction profile. I'm going to read that again. Confirmed affected sources now total 12. Distribution is consistent with a continuous obstruction profile. That is a major change. 12 confirmed. Continuous obstruction profile, that means, and I want to be very careful with this, that the pattern may be consistent with something blocking the light, not the stars going out, something between us and them. Mara.
John, people are going to hear something blocking the light and imagine an object.
Yes.
So we should say clearly that obstruction profile does not automatically mean a solid thing or a ship or a wall or anything like that.
Correct.
But it does mean the idea has entered the official language.
That is exactly right. The idea has entered the official language, a continuous obstruction profile. That is the first official phrase tonight that suggests the missing stars may be connected by something between Earth and the star field. Not confirmed as a physical object, not identified, not localized, but consistent with obstruction. I'm going to be honest, that is the first phrase tonight that made my stomach drop. Not because it tells us what this is, because it tells us what this may not be. It may not be a set of stars doing strange things individually. It may not be coincidence. It may not be bad data. It may be one thing, one continuous thing. Between us and the stars, we are going to reset, and then we will continue monitoring this as the affected region expands. Again, no public safety warning, no confirmed local hazard, but this event has moved from missing points to a possible obstruction profile. And that is where we are now. 12 stars confirmed absent, a band in the northern sky, and for the first time tonight, officials are using language that suggests something may be blocking the universe from view. We're back. I'm John Vale. Mara Ellison is here with me. We are continuing live coverage of an unexplained astronomical event that began less than 2 hours ago with 3 missing stars in the northern sky. The confirmed number is now 12. 12 catalog stars are no longer resolving through verified observing stations. And the most important update, the one that changed the tone of this broadcast, is that the distribution of those missing stars is now being described by the Heliospheric Monitoring Office as consistent with a continuous obstruction profile. That is the phrase, continuous obstruction profile, plain language, something may be blocking the light, not confirmed, not identified, not explained. But that is the direction the official language is moving. And I want to stay with that for a moment because this is where people are going to start filling in blanks. That is natural, that is human. When the official answer is, we do not know, the mind starts building its own answer out of fear. So let's keep the facts in front of us. There is no visible object in the sky. There is no confirmed object near Earth. There is no reported change in the moon, planets, sun, satellites, weather, tides, communications, or gravity. There is no order to shelter. There is no order to evacuate. There is no public safety warning. What we have is a growing region of missing starlight, and that is already enough. We do not need to add imaginary details to make it frightening. It is frightening on its own. We have a new advisory now from the International Astronomical Union's Emergency Coordination Desk. I'm going to read it slowly. Quote, observation partners are advised to begin full spectrum comparison across all available sky sectors within visibility range. Priority should be given to edge detection, temporal sequencing, and wavelength-dependent attenuation analysis. Public-facing institutions are advised to avoid speculative terminology, including but not limited to object, vessel, membrane, field, aperture, veil, curtain, or enclosure. End quote. End quote. That last sentence is interesting. They are telling public-facing institutions not to use words like object, vessel, membrane, field, aperture, veil, curtain, or enclosure. And usually when an agency tells people not to use certain words, it is because those words are already being used somewhere behind the scenes. That does not mean those words are accurate. It means they are worried those words will escape into the public conversation before they are defined. So let's respect that. We are not calling this a vessel. We are not calling it a curtain. We are not calling it a veil. But I think listeners can hear the shape of the concern. Scientists are trying to describe something that behaves like an obstruction without giving the public an image that may be completely wrong. That is hard, because obstruction is not a neutral word when you are talking about the sky. A storm can block the sky, clouds can block the sky, smoke can block the sky, but this is not any of those things. This is not something above one town or one state or one continent. It is being reported by instruments in different parts of the world, looking at the same background of stars and finding that the same expected points of light are no longer there. And now, according to the latest bulletin, they are not scattered. They form a profile, a shape in the data. A boundary, again, those are not official words for the thing itself. Those are words for what the missing light is beginning to suggest. But that suggestion is why the room here has gotten very quiet. Earlier tonight, we were discussing a possible malfunction, then an anomaly, then missing stars. Now we are discussing a possible obstruction. That is a different kind of sentence. Something may be between us and the stars, and if that is true, we do not know what it is. We do not know how large it is. We do not know whether it is moving. We do not know whether it is natural. We do not know whether it is even something our language is built to describe. That is where we are, and I wish I could make that cleaner. I can't. We are receiving a government statement now from the Office of Civil Continuity. That is not usually the agency that speaks on astronomy, so I want to be very clear about what this means and what it does not mean. It does not mean there is a civil emergency. It does not mean there are protective actions for the public. It does not mean there is a threat on the ground. It means the government is starting to coordinate public messaging because public reaction has become part of the event. Here is the statement, quote, "Federal and regional agencies are aware of ongoing astronomical observations involving unexplained stellar non-resolution. At this time, there are no recommended protective actions for the public. Essential services remain operational. Residents are advised to avoid unsafe outdoor gatherings and to follow local traffic guidance. Further information will be provided through scientific agencies as verification continues." End quote. So the message is still no protective action, but the fact that civil continuity is speaking tells us something, not necessarily about the stars, about us. People are going outside in large numbers. People are stopping cars. People are climbing onto roofs. People are gathering in parks and parking lots and school fields and bridges because they want to see for themselves whether the sky has changed. And I understand that. I really do. You hear that stars are disappearing and something in you needs to look up, even if you don't know what you're looking for, even if the sky above your house looks exactly the same as it did last night. You still look because the sky is one of the few things we expect to stay above us without needing our permission. And tonight, that expectation has been damaged. Not yet, but damaged. Mara has been watching the listener feed and some of the local reports coming in. Mara, give us a sense of what people are actually doing right now.
The clearest pattern is that people do not want to be alone with this. That is what comes through more than fear, more than confusion, more than curiosity. People are walking outside and finding neighbors already there. They are standing in apartment courtyards. They are gathering outside diners, gas stations, hospitals, dorms, hotels, firehouses. Anywhere there is a little open space and a piece of visible sky. And most of them still cannot see anything obvious. That almost makes it stranger. Because people are staring at something familiar while being told that part of it is missing. A lot of the messages say the same thing in different words. I don't know what I'm looking at. That line keeps coming in. I don't know what I'm looking at. And I think that may be the most honest public reaction tonight. Most people do not know the technical sky. They know the moon. They know a few bright stars. They know the Big Dipper, maybe Orion, maybe Venus, when someone tells them it is Venus. They know what the sky feels like more than what it contains. So now they are outside trying to read a language they never learned, hoping they can tell whether something has been erased. That is a vulnerable place to be. We are also seeing a lot of parents asking whether to wake their children up, and I don't know how to answer that. There is no practical reason to wake a child right now. There is no shelter order. There is no visible threat. There is nothing a child needs to do. But I understand why people are asking, because if the stars really are changing, some parents want their children to see the sky before it changes more. That is a terrible thought, but it is a human one. And I think a lot of people tonight are having thoughts they do not want to admit yet. Thoughts like, should I take a picture of the sky while it is still full? Thoughts like, will I recognize tomorrow night? Thoughts like, what if this is the last normal sky? Nobody official is saying that. No one should claim that. But people are feeling it. And once people feel something like that, you cannot just science it away with careful phrasing. The careful phrasing matters. The facts matter, but so does the fear, and the fear right now is not wild panic. It is quieter than that. It is people standing under the sky realizing they trusted it without knowing they trusted it.
Thank you, Mara. That is exactly the mood we're hearing from listeners. Quiet fear, not riots, not chaos, not panic in the movie sense. Just people outside looking up and waiting for someone to tell them whether the dark is getting larger. That phrase has come up more than once tonight, and I think it fits whether the dark is getting larger. We have new numbers. Confirmed affected sources now total 2121. I'm going to read the full bulletin. This is from the International Astronomical Union Emergency Coordination Desk. Quote, 21 sources are now confirmed non-resolved across verified instruments. 34 additional sources are under review. Affected sources occupy two narrow, approximately parallel observational bands with increasing density between bands. Motion analysis is preliminary but suggests progressive coverage from north-northeast toward west-southwest across the observed stellar background. End quote. That is a lot. Let me translate carefully. 21 confirmed missing stars, 34 more under review, two approximately parallel bands, increasing density between the bands. Progressive coverage, the missing region is moving, or at least the coverage pattern appears to be moving across the background stars. This is no longer just a handful of missing points. This is a moving area of absence. I'm going to say something that is not official language, but it is plain language. Something is making a strip of the sky go dark. We don't know what. We don't know how far away it is. We don't know whether it is moving or whether the darkness is spreading. But the data now indicates that a strip of stars is disappearing. That is where we are. And for anyone just joining us, I want to repeat what has not changed. There is still no known effect on Earth, no known effect on power, no known effect on communications, no known effect on weather, no known effect on the moon or planets. Deep space communications are still reported as normal. So this is not, at this moment, a ground emergency. But it is no longer a small observation issue either. That stage has passed. We have Dr. Lena Orsic back with us by phone. Dr. Orsic is an observational astronomer who has worked on deep sky survey verification. Doctor, I'm going to keep this brief because I know your time matters tonight. With 21 confirmed sources missing, two parallel bands, and what officials are calling progressive coverage, what would you be looking for next?
Edges, wavelength behavior, and parallax. The edges tell us whether the boundary is sharp or diffuse. A sharp boundary would suggest something defined. A diffuse boundary might suggest scattering dust, plasma, or a field effect. Wavelength behavior tells us whether all forms of light are being blocked equally. If visible light disappears but infrared remains, that means something different than if radio, infrared, visible, ultraviolet, and X-ray all fail together. Parallax tells us distance. If observers in different places on Earth see the obstruction shifted against the stars, then it is relatively close. If no shift is detected, then it may be very distant, extremely large, or not an object in the usual sense. I would also want temporal sequencing. Which stars disappear first, and how quickly? If that sequence is consistent, then you can begin to model motion or expansion. I want to be very careful here. Nothing I just said confirms an object. Nothing confirms intent. Nothing confirms danger to Earth. But the behavior being reported is consistent with something interfering with starlight before it reaches us. That is the careful version.
Doctor, one last question. Is there any ordinary explanation still on the table?
Some ordinary explanations remain possible in pieces, but with independent instruments, different locations, multiple wavelengths, and apparent progression, one simple ordinary explanation becomes less likely. That does not mean extraordinary claims are proven. It means the uncertainty is real.
That was Dr. Lena Orsic, and I want to hold on to that phrase. The uncertainty is real. That may be the most honest thing anyone can say tonight. Not the danger, not the explanation. The uncertainty that is real. We're now seeing several planetariums and university observatories announce overnight public viewing sessions that may actually help. It gives people somewhere safe to go, somewhere staffed, somewhere with people who know how to explain what is visible and what is not. If you are near one of those locations, follow their rules. Do not force your way into closed buildings. Do not crowd emergency exits. Do not block roads. If they say they are full, they are full. And if you cannot go anywhere, that is okay. You are not failing to witness history because you are inside your house. That may sound like a strange thing to say, but people need permission to stay safe tonight. There is a pressure during moments like this to run toward the story, to see it, to record it, to prove you were awake when it happened. But your life is still your life. Your family still needs you. Your car still needs to stay on the road. Your body still needs to not fall off a roof. So please, again, do not put yourself in danger trying to see a patch of missing sky. We have unconfirmed reports from northern Europe and parts of rural Canada that the affected region may now be faintly visible to the naked eye under dark sky conditions. Unconfirmed, let me repeat that. Unconfirmed, some observers are describing a clean gap in the star field near the northern sky. Others say they see nothing unusual. That may depend on visibility, light pollution, cloud cover, eyesight, expectation, and fear. Fear changes perception. If you look at the sky expecting to see a wound, you may find one. So we are not confirming naked eye visibility yet, but the reports are increasing. A message from Thomas in rural Montana says, I'm outside with 3 neighbors. We all know the sky pretty well. There's a patch near the north that looks wrong. Not black like clouds, just empty. Like someone erased the dim stars first. Again, listener message, not verified, but it matches what some others are saying. The dim stars first, that makes sense if the brighter stars are still visible and the fainter background is being covered or lost. It also makes the sky look wrong before it looks obviously damaged. A constellation can stay recognizable even while the space around it empties. That may be why many people still see a normal sky. The familiar bright points remain, for now. We have another bulletin from the Heliospheric Monitoring Office. Quote, multiband review indicates affected sources include visible spectrum and radio-associated targets. Infrared analysis remains inconclusive. No change has been detected in lunar reflectance, planetary reflectance, solar output, or Earth orbital measurements. Deep space probe communications remain nominal. So at this point, whatever is blocking star fields is not blocking every signal from outside Earth. That is good. That means space beyond us has not simply gone silent. At least not yet. And I know those 3 words are doing a lot tonight. At least not yet. But they belong there. Mara has one more listener message I want her to read before we move into the next update.
This is from Elisa. She says she teaches middle school science. She writes, I have spent years telling kids that when they look up, they are looking back in time. Starlight is old light. Some of those stars may already be gone, but the light keeps traveling. Tonight I realized I don't know how to explain light that stops arriving. Not light that fades. Not light that changes color. Not light that reaches the end of its journey because the source died long ago. Light that should already be on its way. Light that should have crossed all that distance. And then somewhere, somehow, it does not get here. That makes the universe feel less like open space and more like a room with a door. And maybe something is closing it.
Thank you, Mara. A room with a door, and maybe something is closing it. That is not official language. It is not scientific language. But I think a lot of people listening understand the feeling. We are receiving a notice from several observatories now that the affected region has crossed into a part of the sky containing stars more familiar to amateur viewers. I'm not going to name specific stars yet until it's confirmed, because naming a famous star incorrectly tonight would be irresponsible. But this may be the point where more people begin to see differences with ordinary eyes. If the pattern continues west-southwest across the observed background, it may affect recognizable constellations within the next hour. Again, if the pattern continues, not guaranteed, not confirmed. But that is the projection being discussed, and I want to address something we are seeing in messages. A lot of people are asking if this means the universe is ending. No, there is no evidence of that. I understand the fear. I do, but no. An unexplained obstruction in our view of the stars is not the same thing as the universe ending. We are observing a change in what reaches us, not a confirmed destruction of what exists. That distinction matters. It may not feel emotionally satisfying, but it matters. The stars may still be there. The light may still exist. Something may be preventing us from receiving it. That is the leading concern right now, not the end of the universe. Something between us and the universe, and somehow that may be worse to think about. Okay, new bulletin. This one is marked priority. Confirmed affected sources, 43. 43, under review, more than 100. The phrase now is broadening occlusion zone. Broadening occlusion zone. That is from the International Astronomical Union. The affected region is no longer being described only as a band. It is an occlusion zone. Occlusion means blockage. A zone of blockage. 43 confirmed stars now missing from expected observations. More than 100 under review, and the zone is broadening. I'm going to let the silence sit for half a second because there is no way to make that sound normal. 43 stars, a broadening occlusion zone, no local hazard, no explanation, and the first naked eye reports may be beginning. That is where we are. Let me reset again. You are listening to Fictional Radio. I'm John Vale with Mara Ellison. A developing astronomical event that began with 3 missing stars has now expanded to 43 confirmed affected sources and more than 100 under review. Scientific agencies are now using the phrase broadening occlusion zone. There is still no known effect on Earth, no public safety warning, no confirmed local hazard, and no identified object. But the sky is changing, slowly for most eyes, rapidly for instruments. And the latest expert interpretation is that something may be blocking starlight from reaching Earth. We do not know what it is. We do not know where it is. We do not know how far it extends. We only know what it is doing. It is taking stars out of view one by one, and the number is rising. We are continuing. I'm John Vale. You are listening to Fictional Radio. The confirmed number of affected stars is now 43. More than 100 additional sources are under review. The phrase being used by the International Astronomical Union is broadening occlusion zone. That means the missing stars are no longer being treated as scattered points. They are being treated as part of a larger area where expected starlight is not reaching instruments on Earth. And I want to say again, because it matters, there is still no public safety warning. There is still no confirmed local hazard. There is still no reported effect on power, phones, satellites, weather, tides, the moon, the planets, or the sun. But the sky is changing. That sentence is now unavoidable. The sky is changing, not everywhere to the naked eye, not clearly for every person standing outside, not in a way that most people can easily verify from their porch or sidewalk. But instruments are seeing it. Observations are confirming it. And the numbers are rising fast enough that this broadcast has changed shape while we've been speaking. We started tonight with 3 missing stars, then 4, then 5, then 12, then 21. Now 43. That progression is the story. Not just that stars are missing, that more are becoming missing. And the affected region is broadening. We have a new statement from the Office of Civil Continuity, and this one is more direct than the last. I'm going to read it in full. Quote, residents are advised not to gather in roadways, rail crossings, airport perimeter zones, bridges, tunnels, emergency access roads, or private rooftops for purposes of sky observation. Local authorities may restrict access to elevated public spaces where unsafe crowding is reported. There remains no recommended protective action related to the astronomical event itself. This advisory is issued in response to public movement and traffic disruption. End quote. So again, this is not a shelter order. This is not a warning to hide from the sky. This is a warning that people are putting themselves in danger trying to see it. And that may sound small compared to what we're covering, but it is not small if you are the person hit by a car. It is not small if an ambulance cannot get through because a crowd is blocking a street. It is not small if someone falls trying to climb onto a roof. Please do not make yourself part of the emergency. That is the best practical advice anyone can give right now. Stay somewhere safe. Stay somewhere legal. Stay somewhere you can leave easily. If you are outside and you feel yourself getting overwhelmed, go back inside, turn on a light, sit down, drink water, call someone. There is no shame in looking away from the sky. I know that sounds strange, but there is no shame in it. We are now seeing the first confirmed reports from dark sky observatories that the affected region is visible without magnification under ideal viewing conditions. I'm going to be very careful with that wording. Visible without magnification under ideal viewing conditions does not mean everyone can look outside and see it. It means trained observers in low-light environments are reporting a visible absence in the star field, not a cloud, not smoke. Not shadow in the ordinary sense, a region where the faint background stars are missing. The bright stars near the edges remain visible, which makes the gap harder to understand. It does not look like something covering the sky in a simple way. It looks, according to one observer, like depth has been removed. That is not a scientific phrase, depth has been removed, but it is the phrase they used, and I think anyone who has looked at a truly dark sky understands what that means. When you are far away from city lights, the sky is not flat. It has layers, bright stars in front, dimmer stars behind, dusty bands, faint clusters, the suggestion of distances too large to feel real. If the faint stars disappear first, the sky doesn't just get darker, it gets flatter. It starts to look less like space and more like a surface. And that is what observers are now describing in the northern sky, a flattening, a blankness, a place where depth should be. We have a bulletin from the Meridian University Observatory Network. Quote, Expanded all-sky comparison confirms continued growth of the occlusion zone. Confirmed affected sources now total 118. Review teams are prioritizing naked-eye reference stars and major constellation boundaries. No stellar death events, high-energy transients, or expected occulting bodies have been identified. End quote. 118 stars now missing from expected observation. And they are prioritizing naked-eye reference stars. That means the event is moving toward or has begun to affect stars that ordinary people may recognize. That is why they are checking them first. Because when a famous star disappears, this stops being a technical story completely. It becomes public in a way no statement can contain. And we may be close to that. I have another statement coming in from Dr. Orsic. She is not on the line right now, but she has sent a written note and gave us permission to read it. She writes, "The most important measurement now is not the number of missing sources, but the contour of the occlusion zone. If the contour is stable and moving, that suggests a boundary passing across our line of sight. If the contour is expanding outward from multiple points, that suggests a different process. If the contour appears everywhere at once, we are dealing with something that does not behave like a physical obstruction in ordinary space." I'm going to read that last part again. If the contour appears everywhere at once, we are dealing with something that does not behave like a physical obstruction in ordinary space. That is where the science is tonight. Trying to determine whether this is something moving across the sky, something expanding across the sky, or something happening to observation itself. And there is a difference, a terrifying difference, but a difference if something is moving across our line of sight, then it has a path. If something is expanding, then it has a center. If something is happening everywhere at once, then we may not be looking at a thing in front of the stars. We may be looking at a change in the space between here and there. That is not official. That is not a conclusion. But it is now part of what experts are considering. Mara, I want to bring you in for a longer reset here because the public messages have shifted again. What are you seeing now?
People are starting to talk about specific stars. That is the change. Earlier, most messages were general. People saying, "I'm outside. I don't know what I'm looking at. The sky looks normal. I'm scared. Should I wake my kids?" Now we are seeing people name stars, constellations, childhood memories, places they learned the sky. A man in Arizona says his grandfather taught him to find north with the stars, and now he keeps checking the same part of the sky over and over, even though the missing region is not there yet. A woman in Maine says her husband proposed to her under a meteor shower, and she is standing in the same field tonight because she feels like she owes the sky some kind of witness. A teenager wrote, "I didn't care about stars until 5 minutes ago, and now I'm mad that nobody made me learn them." That one hurt a little, because there is something in this moment that feels like discovering you love something only after it became fragile. That is happening to people tonight. The sky was always there, so it became background. It was decoration. It was weather-dependent scenery. It was something you noticed on vacation, or during power outages, or when your phone camera made the moon look terrible. And now people are realizing the night sky was not decoration, it was company. It was proof that outside our little human noise, something enormous kept existing. And now pieces of that proof are disappearing. People are also asking a much darker question now. Not can I see it, not is this dangerous, but how much sky can we lose before night becomes something else? I don't know the answer. I don't think anyone does, but that question is appearing in our messages again and again. How many stars have to vanish before the sky no longer feels like the sky? And the frightening thing is, it may not be a large number. You do not have to remove everything to make something feel wrong. Take one tooth out of a smile and the whole face changes. Take one window out of a house and the whole room feels unsafe. Take one familiar light out of the night and people look twice. Take 100 and people begin to wonder what kind of dark is being made. That is the public mood now. Less confusion, more grief. And I think the grief is arriving before the facts because people can feel where this might go.
Thank you, Mara. Grief arriving before the facts, that is a hard thing to hear, but I think it is accurate. We have a major bulletin now. This is from the Heliospheric Monitoring Office. I'm reading it fresh, quote, "Preliminary parallax analysis from distributed observation sites does not indicate a near-Earth obstruction. No measurable parallax shift has been detected within current margins. If the occlusion profile represents a physical boundary, current data does not place that boundary within near-Earth orbital space." End quote. Okay, that is important. Very important. This likely rules out something close to Earth. Not completely, but within current margins, they are not seeing the parallax shift they would expect if an object were nearby. So whatever this is, if it is a physical obstruction, it may not be near us. And that sounds comforting at first. It is not close to Earth. Good, but the problem is geometry. If something far away is blocking that much of the sky, then it has to be large. Very large. Possibly larger than anything our instincts are comfortable imagining. Again, not confirmed. But that is the implication scientists are now wrestling with. A nearby object could be smaller and still block parts of the sky. A distant object has to be vast, and if there is no parallax, then either it is very distant or the obstruction is not behaving like a normal object. Neither option is easy. The confirmed count has just changed again, 209 affected sources. 209 under review, more than 600. The affected region now crosses portions of Cepheus, Draco, and the boundary near Ursa Minor. There are preliminary reports that several dim naked eye stars have failed verification at dark sky sites. Let me repeat the careful version. Several dim naked eye stars may now be affected, not the brightest stars, not the major guide stars, but stars visible to ordinary human eyes under dark skies. This is no longer purely telescopic. That line appears to have been crossed. We are hearing now from local authorities in several rural counties that roads near observatories are becoming congested. In one area, sheriff's deputies are turning cars away from a mountain access road because people are trying to drive up for a better view. Please do not do that. The scientists working tonight need those roads clear. Emergency vehicles need those roads clear. And you do not need to be on a mountain to understand what is happening. In fact, being able to see it more clearly may not make you feel better. I want to be honest about that. There are things people want to witness until they witness them. There are things that become heavier once your own eyes confirm them. So please think before you chase this. Think before you load your kids into a car at midnight to find a darker sky. Think before you decide that seeing the missing place matters more than getting home safely. The sky is changing whether you watch it or not. And I hate that sentence, but it is true. We have a new technical note from Meridian. They are now comparing current sky data against ancient star catalogs and historical naked eye maps. That may sound odd, but it makes sense. When you are dealing with recognizable stars, old records matter. Human beings have been naming and tracking stars for thousands of years. The sky is not just a scientific archive, it is a cultural archive. And what they are trying to determine is whether the affected pattern intersects stars used historically for navigation, agriculture, seasonal rituals, calendars, and orientation. That may not matter to a satellite. It matters to civilization because the night sky is one of the first shared documents humanity ever had, before paper, before radio, before electricity, before this broadcast. We had the stars, and tonight that document is being edited in front of us. Not rewritten, not yet, but erased in places. There is another bulletin coming in. This one is marked Public Clarification from the International Astronomical Union. Reports that major constellations have disappeared are inaccurate at this time. Most visible constellation structures remain intact for typical observers. However, verified stellar non-resolution has begun affecting secondary and tertiary visible stars under dark sky conditions. The public is advised that differences may be subtle outside low-light environments. End quote. So again, the constellations are mostly still there, but some of the smaller lights inside and around them are not, for now. The famous shapes remain, for now. That phrase keeps returning because every update tonight seems temporary. Every reassurance has an expiration date we cannot see. We have a message from a listener named Aaron in northern Michigan. He writes, I'm with my brother. We come out here every winter to photograph the sky. There's a section above the tree line that looks like someone rubbed it with a wet thumb. The big stars are there. The little ones are gone. I keep trying to clean my glasses. That matches the dark sky observer reports. The big stars are there. The little ones are gone. A rubbed place, a smeared place, a flattened place. Different people, same idea. Something is removing the depth. Mara, I want you to take this next section because I know you've been following the schools and hospitals' messages. It seems like institutions are starting to respond even without an official emergency.
Yes. And this may be one of the more realistic parts of tonight, honestly. Life is still happening underneath this. Hospitals are still running. Nurses are still checking medications. Babies are still being born. People are still waiting in emergency rooms. Janitors are still cleaning hallways. Grocery stores are still closing. Night shift workers are still clocking in. But now all of that is happening under a sky people do not trust in the same way. We are seeing hospitals move televisions and waiting rooms to science coverage because patients are asking. Some schools have already announced delayed openings not because of danger from the event, but because they expect students and parents to be awake late, anxious, distracted. Airports are still operating normally, but some pilots have reportedly asked air traffic control for confirmation that navigation systems are unaffected because passengers are asking flight crews if the sky is safe. Think about that phrase. If the sky is safe, that is not a technical question. That is a child's question. That is a human question. And right now, the honest answer is strange. The sky is not harming us, but something about it is no longer safe emotionally. People are also sending messages about religion, about memory, about old myths, about grandparents, about sailors, about farmers, about bedtime stories. That is what happens when the stars are threatened. Everyone brings their own meaning to the dark. And tonight, all those meanings are being pressed at once. I do not think officials can control that with statements. They can give facts, and they should. But they cannot tell people what the stars mean to them. They cannot tell people not to grieve a sky they have not fully lost yet.
And I think that is exactly why this broadcast feels different from a storm or a power outage or a political crisis or anything else we might normally cover in this format. No one owns the sky. No one is responsible for it in the normal sense. No mayor can fix it. No utility company can restore it. No agency can promise repairs. If a road collapses, crews arrive. If power lines fall, linemen climb poles. If a bridge cracks, engineers close it. If the stars vanish, there is no repair crew. There is just measurement. There is just language. There is just all of us trying to understand how much darkness has been added to the night. We have a new number, 496 confirmed affected sources. 496 under review, more than 2,000. The occlusion zone is now described as rapidly broadening. The bulletin says, edge analysis indicates a sharply defined leading boundary with irregular trailing attenuation. Motion estimates remain unstable. Current projection places the leading boundary near multiple primary naked eye reference stars within the next observational interval. A sharply defined leading boundary, a regular trailing attenuation. Primary naked eye reference stars, that means the front edge is sharp. Behind it, the light loss is uneven, and if the projection holds, the leading boundary may reach stars that many people can recognize without equipment. This is the point we hoped we would not reach tonight. This is the point where the event may become visible to almost anyone under a clear, dark enough sky, not as data, not as a chart, as absence, as a star that was there, and then is not. We are being told now that the first major naked eye reference star under review is in the affected path. I'm going to wait for confirmation before naming it. I will not put a famous name into the air until we know. Because the moment you name a star, everyone who knows it will look. And if we are wrong, we will have created fear for no reason. So we will wait. But the fact that it is under review is enough to tell us where this is going. The occlusion zone is moving into the familiar sky. There is a sound in the studio right now that is hard to describe. Not noise, the opposite. A room full of people trying to work quietly because every new sentence feels too large. Nobody is shouting, nobody is panicking. The screens are still on, producers are still checking sources, phones are still ringing, messages are still coming in faster than anyone can read them, but the feeling has shifted again. Earlier, it felt like we were covering something strange. Now it feels like we are waiting for a name, a star with a name, a star people know, a star people have wished on, photographed, taught their children, found in the sky after funerals, seeing from campsites, from ships, from highways, from bedroom windows. Once one of those goes, this becomes something else. The world can live without one star. Of course it can. But the human mind is not built only out of survival. It is built out of symbols. And stars are some of the oldest symbols we have. Okay, we have confirmation. I'm going to read the statement exactly. This is from the Meridian University Observatory Network. Quote, Polaris remains visible and unaffected at this time. Public claims regarding disappearance or dimming of Polaris are false. However, multiple secondary Ursa Minor reference stars have failed verification within the affected boundary. End quote. That is both a correction and an escalation. Polaris remains visible. The North Star is still there. That is important, but secondary reference stars in Ursa Minor have failed verification, so some recognizable support stars in that region may now be missing, not Polaris. But stars around the Little Dipper structure, for people in dark areas who know that constellation, the shape may begin to look wrong. And I want to emphasize, do not spread claims that the North Star is gone. It is not. At this time, Polaris remains visible, but the sky around it is changing. Mara, I know that one hit people hard already.
Yes. The moment Polaris was mentioned, even to say it was still visible, the messages exploded. People are scared because the North Star is not just a star to them. It means direction. It means sailors. It means old maps. It means camping. It means the one point that holds still while everything else seems to turn. Even hearing that stars near it are affected makes people feel like orientation itself is being threatened. And maybe that sounds symbolic, but symbols matter during fear. People keep asking, is the North Star safe? That is the phrase, safe. And the answer right now is Polaris is visible. But I don't know how to answer whether a star is safe. I don't know if anyone does.
Thank you. Polaris is visible. We will stay with that. Polaris is visible, new update. The count is now over 1,000. Confirmed affected sources, 1,112. Under review, more than 5,000. The occlusion zone is now visible to the naked eye in several dark sky regions across North America, Northern Europe, and parts of Western Asia. The description from the IAU is apparent stellar density reduction across a widening arc. A widening arc, so we are no longer talking about a small strip. We are talking about an arc across the northern sky. The bright stars still remain in many areas, but the density between them is thinning. That is the word observers are using, thinning. The sky is thinning. I'm going to pause here and reset because we are moving toward the next phase of this event. If you are just joining us, an unexplained astronomical event began tonight with 3 missing stars in the Draco region. The confirmed count has now exceeded 1,000 affected sources. Scientific agencies are describing a rapidly broadening occlusion zone, now visible to the naked eye under dark conditions, as a reduction in stellar density across a widening arc. Polaris remains visible. There is still no public safety warning, no confirmed local hazard, and no detected change in the sun, moon, planets, satellites' power, or communications. But the northern sky is visibly losing depth. That is where we are. The dark is getting larger, and for the first time tonight, ordinary people can see it. We have a new public statement from the Office of Civil Continuity. I'm going to read it in full. Quote, residents are advised to remain calm and avoid unsafe observation behavior. There is no evidence that the ongoing astronomical phenomenon presents a direct physical hazard to persons on the ground. Essential services remain operational. Public agencies are monitoring reports of crowding, traffic disruption, and distress-related emergency calls. Individuals experiencing acute anxiety are encouraged to move indoors, reduce exposure to live feeds, and contact trusted family, friends, or local support services. End quote. That is a different kind of statement, not because it says the event is dangerous. It still says there is no evidence of direct physical hazard. But now they are talking about distress. They are talking about anxiety. They are telling people it is okay to stop watching. That matters because the first public injury reports tonight have not come from the sky. They have come from people reacting to the sky, traffic incidents near rural viewing roads, crowd concerns outside university observatories, a fall from a low rooftop in Ohio, several panic-related medical calls. None of that is cosmic. It is human, and it is preventable. So I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to say it slowly. You do not have to watch the sky change. You do not have to prove you are outside. You do not have to stare at the dark until you understand it. If you are frightened, go indoors. If your child is frightened, turn the broadcast down. If someone near you is spiraling, get them away from the window. There is no shame in protecting your mind from something your mind was never built to process. The stars are old, the fear is older, and tonight they are meeting each other in millions of people at once. So be kind to yourself, to the people around you, to strangers who are asking the same questions too loudly because they are afraid. We have another bulletin now from the Meridian University Observatory Network. Quote, primary naked eye reference verification is ongoing. Polaris remains visible. Vega remains visible. Deneb remains visible. Cassiopeia primary structure remains visible but shows reduced background density along the northeastern arc. Multiple secondary reference stars in Ursa Minor, Cepheus, and Draco are no longer resolving across verified dark sky observations. End quote. So the major guide stars named in that bulletin remain visible. Polaris remains visible. Deneb remains visible. Deneb remains visible. Cassiopeia's primary structure remains visible. But the sky around them is thinning. That is the simplest version. The landmarks are still there. The neighborhoods around them are going dark. And for people who know those parts of the sky, the difference is now visible. Not imagined, visible. We are receiving more listener messages than we can possibly read, but I want to read one because it says something important. This is from Jonah in rural Pennsylvania. He writes, I keep looking at the same patch and then looking away because I don't trust my eyes. The big stars are there, so I tell myself nothing is wrong. Then I look at the space between them and it feels like the sky has no floor. That is not scientific language, but tonight, plain human language may be better at describing the feeling than technical terms. A sky with no floor, a room with a door, depth being removed, the dark getting larger. Those are the phrases people are sending us, not because they know what is happening, because they know what it feels like. And what it feels like is that something is not just blocking stars, it is changing the shape of night. We have a new bulletin from the Heliospheric Monitoring Office. This is marked priority. I'm going to read it carefully. Quote, Deep Space Communication Monitoring has detected intermittent signal degradation from outer system probes. The degradation is not currently consistent with standard solar interference, antenna error, or known relay obstruction. Inter-system satellite networks remain operational. Lunar and Martian relay traffic remain nominal at this time. End quote. Okay, that is new. That is very new. Until now, deep space communications were reported normal. Now there is intermittent signal degradation from outer system probes. Inter-system satellites are still operational. Lunar and Martian relay traffic remains normal. So this does not affect everything in space. It appears, at least from that bulletin, to be affecting signals from farther out. Outer system probes, that phrase is going to get attention, so let's slow down. Signal degradation does not mean the probes are gone. It does not mean they have been destroyed. It does not mean something hit them. It means the signal quality is worsening, dropping in strength or clarity in a way that officials cannot yet explain through the usual causes. And on a normal night, that would already be worth investigating. On this night, with starlight disappearing across a widening part of the sky, it becomes much more concerning, because this may mean the phenomenon is not only affecting what we can see, it may be affecting what can reach us. Light first, now signal. That is the order we are watching. And I want to be careful here. The official bulletin does not use the word isolation. It does not say Earth is being cut off. It does not say communication with deep space has failed. But emotionally, I think people are going to hear this and feel that word anyway. Isolation, something between us and the distant universe, something that first interrupted light. Now maybe signal. And if that continues, the question becomes not just what can we see, the question becomes, what can still reach us? We have a new number, confirmed affected sources, 3,840, 3,840. Under review, more than 12,000. The widening arc has now crossed several recognizable constellation regions. The primary shapes remain partially intact, but secondary stars are failing across multiple verified dark sky observations. And there is another line here. I'm going to read it as written. First confirmed naked eye reference loss recorded at 042 Eastern. First confirmed naked eye reference loss. They have not named the star in this bulletin, but they are confirming that at least one star visible to ordinary human eyes under dark conditions is now gone from view. Not dimmer, not obscured by weather, gone from expected observation. This is the point where the event becomes visible history. For hours, instruments saw what people could not. Now people can see it. A star that ordinary eyes could see is no longer there. I'm going to pause because there is no responsible way to rush through that. A naked eye star has disappeared. That does not mean it died. That does not mean it was destroyed. That does not mean anything physically happened to the star itself. But from Earth, it is gone. And that is what people will feel. Not the distinction, the absence. We have the name now. The first confirmed naked eye reference loss is in Cepheus. The star is not one of the brightest in the sky, not one most casual observers would know by name, but it is charted visible under dark conditions and used in reference alignment by amateur observers. I'm not going to dwell on the name because for most listeners the name will not be the point. The point is that the line has been crossed. The sky is no longer changing only for instruments. It is changing for human eyes. We are getting reports from dark sky locations now that people reacted audibly when the confirmation came through. Not because they all knew the star, most didn't, but because once one naked eye star is confirmed gone, everyone begins looking at every star differently. That is the shift. Every star becomes temporary. Every point of light becomes a question, will that one stay? Will that one go? Is that one dimmer? Was there something there a minute ago? The sky becomes unstable in the mind before it becomes unstable in the eye, and that may be the most dangerous part of this phase. Not physical danger, psychological danger, because the human brain does not like uncertainty above it. It wants the ceiling to hold. We have another civil advisory, quote, public health agencies advise reducing repeated sky-checking behavior among children and vulnerable individuals. Caregivers are encouraged to provide factual reassurance and avoid speculative descriptions. Do not tell children that the universe is ending. Do not allow unverified live streams to replace official information. End quote. That sentence, do not tell children that the universe is ending, is one I did not expect to read tonight, but it is necessary, so I'll repeat it. Do not tell children the universe is ending. There is no evidence the universe is ending. There is evidence that our view of portions of the universe is being blocked or altered. Those are not the same thing. If a child asks what is happening, you can say, some stars are hard to see tonight, and scientists are trying to understand why. That is true. That is enough. Children do not need the full weight of adult fear. They need your calm more than they need your accuracy down to the technical phrase. And adults may need that too. Some stars are hard to see tonight. Scientists are trying to understand why. Start there. Breathe there. Mara, I want to bring you in here. You've been watching the listener messages, and I know they've changed again. Give us the human picture right now.
The human picture is strange because life is still continuing. That may be the hardest part. This is not like a hurricane where the windows shake. It is not like an earthquake where the ground moves. It is not like a blackout where everyone immediately understands that something has failed. People are still at work. People are still cooking late dinners. Truck drivers are still on highways. Hospital staff are still changing IV bags. Parents are still telling children to go back to bed. Flights are still landing. Police dispatchers are still answering normal calls. And above all of that, the sky is quietly becoming unfamiliar. That contrast is what people seem unable to handle. The world underneath is too normal for the thing above it. There are reports of restaurants turning off patio lights so people can see better. A high school football field in Iowa opened its gates because hundreds of people were standing outside the fence. Several churches and community centers have opened their doors, not for services exactly, but just so people have somewhere lit and warm to sit together. That is the part I keep noticing. People are not just trying to see the stars, they are trying to be near other people while the stars change. And I think that says something about how alone the universe can make us feel when it stops behaving like background. We've also seen messages from people who are angry. Angry at officials for not explaining it faster. Angry at broadcasters for repeating no known threat when the sky itself looks threatened. I understand that anger. But I also want to say this clearly. Careful language is not the enemy tonight. Careful language may be the only thing keeping fear from becoming more dangerous than the event itself. When officials say no known direct hazard, that is not the same as nothing is happening. When scientists say occlusion zone, they are not trying to hide something simple. They are trying not to give a name to something they do not understand yet. And I know people want a name. People always want a name. A name makes fear feel smaller. But naming something wrong can be worse than not naming it at all. So for now, the human picture is this. People are awake. People are outside. People are scared. And the sky has become something everyone is watching, but no. One can help. There is something else I keep thinking about. All night, John has been saying no known ground hazard, no public safety warning, no confirmed physical danger. And that is true. But the word danger feels too small for what people are experiencing. Because human beings do not only live on the ground. We live in meaning. We live inside stories about where we are. The stars help build those stories. They told us when to plant, when to sail, when to move, when to pray, when to sleep. They gave us calendars before clocks. They gave us direction before roads. They gave us gods, myths, science, songs, flags, wishes, romance, grief. And now, for reasons no one understands, the stars are being taken out of the story. That may not be a hazard in the official sense, but it is a wound. It is a wound in orientation. And I think people are feeling that before they understand it. That is why they are standing outside together. That is why they are waking spouses. That is why they are taking blurry photos that will not prove anything. They are trying to hold on to a sky that suddenly feels temporary. And I wish I had a better way to say it. I wish there were a calmer way, but maybe calm tonight does not mean pretending this is fine. may become means saying the frightening thing without losing ourselves inside it. So here is the frightening thing. The sky is losing stars, the loss is spreading, signals from farther out are beginning to degrade. Scientists do not know why. And no one, not one person on Earth can make it stop. That is where the fear is coming from. Not because someone has told us the end is here, because for once humanity is watching something happen at a scale where all of our usual verbs fail. We cannot repair, we cannot rescue, we cannot evacuate, we cannot fight, we can only observe. And maybe that is the oldest fear of all, to look into the dark and realize the dark is doing something back.
Thank you, Mara. That was hard to hear, but I think it needed to be said. Everyone is watching. No one can help. And that may be the most honest summary of the night so far. We have another update. This one is from the Heliospheric Monitoring Office and the International Astronomical Union jointly. Quote, deep space signal degradation now confirmed across 4 outer system assets. Geometry review indicates partial alignment with the leading occlusion boundary. Further analysis is ongoing. No degradation detected in lunar, Martian, or inner system assets. No change in solar output detected. End quote. 4 outer system assets. Partial alignment with the leading occlusion boundary. That means the affected communication paths may be crossing the same region where the stars are disappearing. Again, not full confirmation, but the two phenomena may be related. Starlight loss, outer system signal degradation, same boundary. That is a major development. And the phrase leading boundary is now being used more openly. A boundary, not just an area, not just a zone. A boundary, something with an edge, something moving or spreading, something that can cross light and signal paths. We have a projection now, and I need to handle this carefully. The projection is not a prediction of danger. It is a projection of sky coverage if the current boundary motion continues. According to the current model, the occlusion zone may cover a majority of the northern visible sky within the next observational interval. That does not mean the whole sky goes dark in minutes. It means the star loss may become obvious across much of the northern sky. For people in the southern hemisphere, visibility may differ depending on location and local sky orientation, but observatories there are also reporting corresponding background losses when imaging affected regions. This is becoming global as an observation, not local, not regional. Global confirmed affected sources are now above 10,000. 10,000. There are too many under review for that number to mean what it meant earlier. The count is becoming less useful because the region is now large enough that individual stars are not the story. The zone is the story, the boundary is the story. The removal of depth is the story, and that is what officials are beginning to say. The latest technical note reads, source-by-source confirmation is no longer sufficient for public characterization. Institutions should transition to regional sky density reporting. Plain language, there are too many missing stars to list one by one. They are moving from counting stars to measuring how much sky is gone. That sentence may be the worst one tonight. Measuring how much sky is gone, not which stars, how much sky. We have reports now that several major broadcast networks are switching to continuous coverage. Some are showing live sky cameras from observatories. Some are showing expert panels. Some are showing dark fields with captions because there is not much else to show. And that is part of the difficulty. The most important visual on Earth right now is absence. Television is not good at absence. Radio may actually be better because you're already imagining the dark. You are already filling it in. Maybe that makes this worse. Maybe it makes it more honest. I don't know. We are receiving a new government advisory. This is the strongest language yet from the Office of Civil Continuity. Quote, federal agencies are coordinating with scientific authorities regarding continuity of communications, navigation confidence, and public information stability. There remains no confirmed direct hazard to the ground population. However, agencies are preparing contingency messaging in the event of broader signal propagation effects. End quote. Contingency messaging. Broader signal propagation effects. That means they are preparing for the possibility that this may interfere with more than starlight. They are not saying it has happened yet, but they are preparing. That is new. This is the first time civil authorities have acknowledged the possibility of broader signal effects. We should not panic, but we should not ignore the change in language. The system is preparing for something it does not yet understand. We have a new bulletin. This one is marked immediate. Confirmed regional sky density loss now exceeds 30% in the northern occlusion arc under dark sky observation standards. 30%, that does not mean 30% of all stars visible from Earth are gone. It means in the affected arc, under measured conditions, the stellar density has dropped by more than 30% compared with expected observation. That is enough for ordinary people to see. That is enough for the sky to look damaged. We are now past the point of subtlety. There are reports from observatories in Canada, Iceland, Norway, Scotland, and the northern United States that crowds fell silent almost simultaneously as the arc became visible. That may sound dramatic, but multiple local reporters are using the same description. Crowds went quiet, not screaming, not panic, quiet, because when absence becomes visible, sound feels disrespectful. That is what one reporter wrote: when the missing part of the sky became obvious, people stopped talking like they were in a church. I understand that. I wish I didn't, but I do. We have another update from the Outer System Communication Desk. Signal degradation has now become intermittent loss across two assets, intermittent loss. Not total, not permanent, but contact is dropping in and out. The affected assets are beyond the orbit of Saturn. The inner system remains normal. The sun remains normal. The planets remain observable, but the far signals are starting to blink. Light first, then signal. That order is going to stay with people. Light first, then signal. I want to reset before we move into what may be the final phase of this broadcast. You are listening to Fictional Radio. I'm John Vale with Mara Ellison. An unexplained occlusion zone has broadened across the northern sky, reducing stellar density by more than 30% in the affected arc under dark sky observation. More than 10,000 sources are affected or presumed affected. The first naked-eye star losses have been confirmed. Several secondary constellation stars are no longer visible. Deep space communications from outer system probes are degrading, with intermittent loss now reported across two assets. There is still no confirmed direct hazard to people on the ground. The sun, moon, planets, satellites, power, and communications inside Earth orbit remain normal. But the boundary is widening, and the stars are no longer disappearing one by one. They are disappearing by region. We are going to continue, and I need to say something carefully. The next part of this broadcast may be difficult for some listeners. If you are already overwhelmed, it is okay to step away. It is okay to turn on the lights. It is okay to sit with someone and not listen for a few minutes. We will continue to give the facts as calmly as we can, but the facts are changing quickly now, and the sky is changing with them. We are continuing. I'm John Vale. Mara Ellison is here with me, and we are now moving into what officials are calling a global observation phase. That is the phrase being used in the latest bulletin. Global observation phase. It means this is no longer centered only on the northern sky. It is no longer something primarily visible to dark sky observatories. It is no longer a technical anomaly being interpreted by a few networks. The event is now being measured across every available sky sector. Northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, equatorial observatories, orbital platforms, lunar relay imaging, deep space receivers, radio arrays, optical surveys, infrared systems. Everything that can look outward is being used to look outward, and what they are finding is not good. The occlusion zone has expanded beyond the original arc. Multiple sky density reports now indicate loss patterns in separate regions that do not appear connected by a simple line across the sky. That is very important. Earlier tonight, the working assumption was that something might be moving across our view, a boundary, an edge, a strip, something passing between Earth and the stars. But the newest data is harder to fit into that idea, because now observatories are reporting additional loss regions that seem to appear ahead of the main boundary, not behind it, not along a smooth projected path. Ahead of it, separate patches of missing sky, separate areas where star density drops without a visible bridge to the first occlusion zone. That means one of two things may be happening. Either the boundary is not a simple shape and what we are seeing are parts of something much larger with uneven edges, or the effect is not moving across the sky at all. It is appearing in pieces, like something is closing from more than one direction. I want to stress again, those are interpretations of the data. Those are not official conclusions. But this is why the tone has changed. This is why the language from the agencies is becoming shorter. This is why the statements are coming faster and saying less. The more they measure, the less this looks like a single object crossing a star field, and the more it looks like the visible universe is being removed from access. Not destroyed, not necessarily removed from access. That phrase is not official. It is mine, but I do not know a plainer way to say what the data is beginning to suggest. The stars may still be there, the galaxies may still be traveling, but Earth is receiving less of it. Region by region, signal by signal, the sky is not going out like a light bulb, it is being shut. We have a new statement from the International Astronomical Union and the Heliospheric Monitoring Office. I'm going to read the full thing. Quote, regional sky density reporting now confirms significant stellar source loss across multiple visible sectors. Occlusion behavior is no longer confined to the original northern arc. Independent full sky surveys confirm emergent low-density regions in eastern, southern, and western observational fields. Multi-wavelength comparison indicates partial attenuation across optical, radio-associated, and ultraviolet adjacent source categories. Infrared response remains inconsistent. Continuing, outer system communication instability has expanded to 7 assets, with intermittent loss reported across 4. Lunar, Martian, and near-Earth systems remain operational. No abnormal solar output has been detected. No gravitational anomaly has been confirmed. No direct ground hazard has been identified. End quote. Let's break that down. Significant stellar source loss across multiple visible sectors. That means more than one part of the sky is losing stars. Not just one arc, not just one direction. Optical sources are affected. Radio-associated sources are affected. Infrared remains inconsistent. Outer system communication instability has expanded. 7 assets affected, 4 with intermittent loss. Nearer systems remain normal. The sun remains normal. No direct ground hazard. Again, the same strange balance. Nothing on the ground is changing. Everything above the ground is becoming less reachable. We have another statement from the Office of Civil Continuity. This one is brief. Quote, federal and regional agencies are preparing coordinated public messaging in the event of extended astronomical visibility loss or deep space communications interruption. Residents should continue normal safety practices. There is no instruction to shelter, evacuate, ration supplies, or disrupt medical transportation or work obligations. End quote. That is what officials want you to know. Do not shelter. Do not evacuate, do not ration supplies, do not disrupt medical needs, do not abandon work responsibilities if you are in an essential role. And I'm going to add this, do not turn uncertainty into chaos. The grocery store does not know why the stars are missing. The gas station does not know why deep space probes are blinking. The hospital does not need extra fear at its doors. Your neighbor is not helped by your panic. Your child is not protected by your worst imagination. Stay grounded. That phrase matters tonight in a very literal way. Stay grounded, because the ground for now is still behaving like ground. The sky is not. We are getting reports from cities now that is new. Until this phase, much of the visible change was limited to rural or dark sky areas. City lights were washing out the subtler losses. People in urban centers could hear the reports, see the live feeds, but look up and still see only a few bright points, maybe the moon if visible, maybe nothing through cloud or light pollution. Now we are seeing reports from cities that the bright star pattern itself is changing. Not everywhere, not all at once. But enough. A local station in Minneapolis reports that a visible gap opened near a familiar part of the northern sky during a live rooftop segment. They did not know what had gone missing at first. The anchor stopped speaking because the astronomer beside her stopped speaking. A sky camera outside Edinburgh captured 2 visible points fading out of detection within the same 10-minute interval. Officials have not confirmed those stars by name yet. An observatory partner in northern Japan reports sudden reduction in background density near a region previously unaffected. And in several cities, people are reporting a strange optical effect that scientists are calling contrast exaggeration. The remaining stars look brighter, not because they are actually brightening, because the sky around them has emptied. Like lights in a theater after the audience has left, the points that remain stand out more sharply against the black. And that may make the sky look beautiful for a moment. That is one of the crueler details tonight. Parts of the sky may look clearer as they become emptier. People may mistake loss for clarity. They may look up and think, I've never seen those stars so bright. And the reason may be that the smaller lights around them are gone. Mara, I want you to take a moment here. We are seeing messages now from people describing that exact thing, the sky looking beautiful in a way that frightens them.
Yes, that is one of the hardest shifts in the listener messages. People are not only saying the sky looks wrong now, some are saying it looks beautiful. And they feel guilty for thinking that. There is a woman in Wisconsin who wrote, the stars that are left look like diamonds. I hate that it's beautiful. A man in Nova Scotia says, the sky looks cleaner than I have ever seen it, and I know that means something terrible. A teenager in Denmark wrote, it looks like somebody deleted the background layer. That one has been repeated a lot. deleted the background layer. It is such a modern way to say an ancient fear, because that is what people are seeing now. Not a monster, not fire, not a storm, not something dramatic enough to make the fear obvious. They are seeing absence arranged neatly, and that is almost worse. There is no chaos in it, no violence we can point to, no explosion, no sound, just less. Less sky, less distance, less universe, and I think that is why people are getting quiet. Fear usually makes people loud when there is something to run from. This is different. There is nowhere to run from the sky. So people become still. They stand next to strangers in parking lots and school fields and hospital entrances, and they whisper because the thing happening above them feels too large for normal voices. I also want to say something about the anger, because it is still growing. People are angry that no one is giving them an answer. But I think underneath that anger is grief, and underneath the grief is a kind of embarrassment. We are realizing how much we assumed would always be there. We assumed the stars would outlast us, not in a scientific paper way, in a personal way, in the way a person assumes the ocean will still be there even if they move inland, in the way you assume mountains will continue existing after you stop looking at them. The stars were the oldest promise we never asked anyone to make, and tonight that promise is being broken without explanation. So yes, people are angry, but they are also ashamed of how helpless they feel. Because what do you do when something takes the stars? You cannot call the police, you cannot demand a refund, you cannot vote it out, you cannot unplug it, you cannot pray it back with any guarantee. You just stand there as a species, all at once with your face turned upward. That image is going to stay with me. Humanity with its face turned upward, not conquering, not exploring, not naming, just watching. And maybe for the first time in a long time, remembering that the universe was never under us. We were always under it.
We have a new update. This is from the Outer System Communication Desk. Quote, confirmed loss of telemetry from 2 outer system assets, intermittent recovery attempts ongoing, 3 additional assets experiencing severe degradation. Geometry review indicates signal paths intersect newly identified attenuation regions. End quote. Confirmed loss of telemetry. 2 assets. That means 2 deep space probes are no longer sending usable data. Recovery attempts are ongoing, so they may come back, but for now, contact is lost. And 3 more are severely degraded. Again, the inner system remains stable, near-Earth satellites remain stable, the Moon and Mars relays remain stable, but farther out, the lights are blinking off, not just stars now, signals. Machines we sent into the dark to speak back to us are going quiet, and I know these are unmanned probes. I know they are machines. I know most people cannot name them. I know no human life is aboard them. But there is something deeply human about a probe. A probe is a question with metal around it. A probe is a message that says, we are here and we want to know what is farther. And tonight, some of those questions are no longer coming back. We are now receiving sky density numbers from global networks, and the numbers are moving too fast to read as individual updates. The affected regions are now being measured as percentage losses across multiple sectors. Northern Arc, over 60% density reduction under dark sky standards. Eastern sector, 22% and rising. Southern field, 11% and rising. Western sector, new attenuation region confirmed. The term now being used internally is not just occlusion. It is enclosure modeling. I'm going to repeat that. Enclosure modeling, that phrase appears in a technical note sent to partner observatories and then reposted publicly by one of the university networks. They may retract or revise the wording, but it is out now, enclosure modeling. That means some scientists are now modeling the event not as a passing obstruction, but as something closing around the observational field. Around us, not physically around Earth necessarily, not like a shell we can touch, not something satellites are hitting, but around our ability to receive the universe, around line of sight, around signal paths, around light. The word enclosure is going to scare people. It scares me, but it is now part of the technical conversation. And I would rather say that carefully than pretend listeners are not already seeing it online. We have another Office of Civil Continuity statement. This is the first one that addresses the word directly. Quote, references to enclosure modeling in scientific discussion should not be interpreted as confirmation that Earth is physically enclosed, trapped, or surrounded by a material structure. The phrase describes one possible model for observed loss of external astronomical visibility and signal propagation. There remains no evidence of impact, atmospheric hazard, gravitational disruption, or direct surface threat. End quote. That is important. Enclosure modeling does not mean Earth is inside a box. It does not mean a wall has appeared in space. It does not mean satellites are trapped. It means one model for the data resembles loss of visibility from multiple directions. But words matter, and that word is going to land hard. Enclosure. We are not saying Earth is enclosed. We are saying scientists are now testing whether the data behaves as though something is closing off what can reach Earth. That is the distinction. It is not comforting, but it is precise. We have reports now that several major stars are under verification watch. I am not naming them until the agencies do. We learned that lesson earlier. But I can say this much. These are not obscure reference points. These are stars ordinary people know, stars children can point to, stars in stories, stars in navigation. Stars on school posters, if one of them is confirmed affected, the public reaction will be enormous. And officials know that, which is why they are moving slowly. You do not announce the loss of a famous star casually. You confirm. You reconfirm. You check every instrument. You check weather. You check coordinates. You check optical, radio, infrared, historical position, everything. Because once the name is spoken, it cannot be unspoken. Millions of people will look up for that name, and some of them will not find it. We have confirmation now of one major star affected. I'm going to read the bulletin exactly. Quote, Vega has failed visual confirmation across 3 dark sky verification sites and 2 calibrated optical systems. Atmospheric and equipment causes remain under review. Public-facing confirmation pending. End quote. That is not final confirmation. But it is the first official verification failure involving a major named star. Earlier, Vega was listed as visible. Now Vega has failed visual confirmation at several sites, pending confirmation, not gone officially, but under serious review. This is moving very quickly. Vega is one of the brightest stars in the night sky. It is part of the summer triangle. It is one of those stars many people actually do know, even if they do not know they know it. If Vega is confirmed missing, this becomes a different moment. We have a second bulletin. Deneb remains visible. Polaris remains visible. Altair remains visible. Vega remains under review. Cassiopeia primary structure partially degraded, multiple Ursa Minor and Cepheus reference points lost. The northern arc now exceeds 70% density reduction under dark sky standards, 70%. That means in the affected arc, most of the expected star density is now gone. The bright landmarks are standing in a field that has been emptied around them. The sky is becoming a skeleton. Mara, I'm going to ask you, not for reaction yet, but for the messages, what are people saying about Vega?
People are looking for it. That is the main thing. The moment the name appeared online, people started looking for it. Some are saying they can see it, some are saying they cannot. Some are in clouds, some are in cities, some are looking in the wrong part of the sky. Some are panicking because they do not know whether they are supposed to see it from where they are. So to anyone listening, please remember this. Your inability to find a star does not confirm anything. You may have clouds, you may have light pollution, you may be facing the wrong direction, it may be below your horizon, you may not know what you are looking at. Do not turn your own uncertainty into proof. But emotionally, yes, the name changed everything, because now people have something to lose. A named star is different from a number. 3,800 catalog sources is frightening in the mind. Vega is frightening in the chest.
We have the confirmation. Vega is now confirmed non-resolved across verified optical systems. Vega is gone from expected observation. I'm going to say that again carefully. Vega is not visible where it should be across verified optical systems. This does not mean Vega has died. This does not mean Vega has been destroyed. It means from Earth, through verified observation, Vega is no longer being received. But the human version is simpler. Vega is gone. I'm going to let that sit. Vega is gone. For many listeners, that may be the first missing star tonight whose name means something. Vega, a bright star, a summer star, a star in human memory, gone from view, not just for one telescope, not just behind one cloud, gone from expected observation, and now all over the world, people who know where to look are looking at a place where a famous star should be. That empty place will become part of history, no matter what happens next. We have reports of crowds reacting at observatories, some people crying, some praying, some leaving, some staying. At one public viewing site, a staff member reportedly turned the telescope away because people were pushing forward too quickly. At another, the observatory director asked everyone to step back from the equipment and simply look up with their own eyes. I understand both reactions. People want proof. Then proof hurts. The latest sky density model shows the northern arc collapsing into what they're calling a low stellar region. That is a cold phrase. Low stellar region, it means there are now large portions of the sky where the expected stars are no longer appearing. Large enough that the eye does not need training anymore. Large enough that even if you do not know the stars, you know the emptiness is wrong. And we are receiving the first reports that in some dark sky areas, the Milky Way is no longer visible through sections where it should be. That may be because of the same density loss. It may be because of local viewing conditions. It is still under review, but the reports are coming from enough places that we need to mention them. The band of our galaxy itself may be affected in visible observation. That is where we are now, not only individual stars, not only constellations, the texture of the galaxy. We have another government advisory. Quote, due to growing public distress, all non-essential sky observation gatherings at federal and regional scientific facilities are being suspended. Institutions are advised to secure observation sites for staff use only. Members of the public should not travel to observatories, transmission stations, or restricted scientific facilities. End quote. So public viewing is now being closed at many official sites, not because the sky is physically dangerous, because people are becoming too distressed. Crowds are becoming unsafe, and observatories need to work. That will anger people. But it makes sense. The scientists need the instruments more than the public needs to stand beside them. I know that sounds harsh, but tonight, every minute of clean data matters. We have another telemetry update. Confirmed loss now across 6 outer system assets, severe degradation across 9, partial degradation across 11 more. The outer system network is failing in patches. The inner system remains stable. Mars remains reachable. The moon remains reachable. Near-Earth orbit remains reachable, but the far probes are going quiet, one by one. And the geometry review now says the losses align with multiple attenuation regions, not just the northern boundary. That means the signal problem is spreading with the star problem. The same thing that is closing the sky may be closing the routes by which our machines speak back to us. Again, not official conclusion, but the alignment is now being acknowledged. Mara, take this for a moment.
There is a message I want to read. It is from someone named Gabriel. He says, my daughter asked if the stars are scared. That is the whole message. My daughter asked if the stars are scared. I don't know why that one broke through more than the others, but it did. Maybe because it is such a child's question, and also somehow the question everyone is asking in a different way. Are the stars scared? Are we? Is there something on the other side of this? Is there another side? All night, adults have been trying to protect children from the word ending, but children are very good at finding the question underneath the words. They know when adults are scared, they know when the room changes, they know when people look up and do not smile, and they ask the question in the only language they have. Are the stars scared? I do not know what Gabriel told his daughter. I hope he told her stars do not get scared. I hope he held her and turned her away from the window, because sometimes love is not telling the whole truth. Sometimes love is choosing the truth a person can survive. And maybe that is what every official statement tonight has been trying to do in its own cold way. Not lie, not hide, but give the world only the amount of truth it can carry at one time. The problem is that the sky is now giving us more than that. The sky is giving us too much truth, too quickly, too silently, and no one knows how to hold it.
Thank you, Mara. We have another bulletin. I need a moment to read this. Okay, this is from the Joint Scientific Coordination Desk. Quote, loss of external astronomical visibility is accelerating. Regional sky density measurements indicate severe attenuation across northern, eastern, and western sectors, with emerging attenuation across southern fields. Multi-wavelength data suggests increasing broadband suppression in affected regions. Outer system telemetry is unreliable. Deep space communication continuity cannot be guaranteed. End quote. Deep space communication continuity cannot be guaranteed. That is the strongest statement yet. Outer system telemetry unreliable. Broadband suppression, severe attenuation across multiple sectors. This is no longer just missing stars. This is loss of the outer sky. That is the plain version. Loss of the outer sky, we have more. A separate note from the Heliospheric Monitoring Office. No solar anomaly detected. Solar output remains within expected parameters. Solar imaging remains clear. The sun is not currently affected. The sun is not currently affected. That is meant to reassure, and it does. For a second, but the word currently is doing what it has done all night. It keeps the door open. The sun is not currently affected. The moon is not currently affected. Near-Earth satellites are not currently affected. Mars is not currently affected. Everything close remains. Everything far is failing. That pattern is becoming harder to ignore. It feels like the universe is being taken away by distance. The farthest things first, then the name stars, then the structures, then the signals. A closing radius of meaning. I know that is not technical, but it is how this feels. We have confirmation now that the Milky Way is no longer visible across several dark sky observation sites where it should be prominent. Again, visible observation. Not a statement about the galaxy physically, but from Earth, sections of the Milky Way are no longer appearing. That may be the largest emotional shift since Vega. Because the Milky Way is not one star. It is the visible river of our own galaxy. It is homemade visible. And now parts of it are gone from view. Imagine standing outside and not only losing stars, but losing the glow that tells you you are inside a galaxy. That is what some observers are reporting now. A sky that no longer looks like space. A sky that looks like black glass with holes punched in it. And the holes are closing. We are approaching what officials are calling full external visibility failure in certain sectors. Full external visibility failure. That phrase means a region of sky where no expected external sources are resolving, no stars, no background, no distant radio sources, no usable signal paths. A region of the sky that for observation purposes returns nothing. Not black in the ordinary sense, nothing. A direction that no longer answers. We have a civil continuity message now. This is for public broadcast. Quote, residents are advised to remain indoors if outdoor observation is causing distress or unsafe gathering conditions. There is no evidence of atmospheric contamination, radiation exposure, impact event, or direct environmental hazard. Critical infrastructure remains operational. Further astronomical developments will not require immediate public action unless specifically announced through official channels. End quote. That is the line. Further astronomical developments will not require immediate public action unless specifically announced. In plain language, even if more stars vanish, there is nothing for you to do. That may be the most frightening reassurance imaginable. Nothing for you to do. A confirmed loss of Vega has now been followed by lost confirmations across several named stars in the northern and eastern sky. The agencies are no longer announcing each name publicly as a separate event because the pace is too fast. That is a sentence I never expected to say. The stars are disappearing too quickly to name, not catalog objects. Name stars, recognizable stars, stars with stories. Too quickly to name. We are seeing live sky cameras now showing broad black regions where the star field should be dense. The remaining bright stars stand alone for a few minutes and then some of them vanish too. Not fade exactly. Some reports say fade, some say blink, some say they are there in one frame and gone in the next. The data will sort that out later, if there is a later for the data. I should not have said that. Let me rephrase. The data will be reviewed when conditions allow. That is the responsible version. But we are all thinking in less responsible sentences now. Mara, are you all right?
I'm here.
Do you want to speak?
Yes, just not too much. I think there comes a point where language starts making things smaller in the wrong way. And I don't want to do that. But I will say this, people are sending messages now that are not questions anymore. They are not asking what it means. They are telling us where they are. I'm with my mother. I'm holding my son. I'm outside the hospital. I'm in my truck. I'm at the ocean. I can't see the stars from here, but I'm listening. That last one keeps coming in. I can't see the stars from here, but I'm listening. Maybe that is what this broadcast has become, a way for people who cannot see the sky to know they are still under it with everyone else. And maybe that matters, even now, especially now.
It does matter. I think it does. We have another bulletin. This is marked immediate public information. Quote, multiple sky sectors now meet criteria for external visibility failure. Remaining visible stellar sources are declining rapidly in affected fields. Inner system objects remain visible. The moon remains visible. We're above horizon. Visible planets remain observable. We're above horizon. The sun remains normal where daylight is present. No direct surface hazard identified. Multiple sky sectors, external visibility failure, remaining stars declining rapidly. The moon remains, the planets remain, the sun remains, everything that belongs to our local neighborhood is still there. Everything beyond it is being cut away. That is the pattern. That is no longer just a feeling. That is the report. The solar system remains visible. The universe beyond it is disappearing from view. And now we have the sentence. This is from the Scientific Coordination Desk. Quote, current data supports temporary public characterization as external celestial isolation pending further analysis. External celestial isolation. Earth is not confirmed physically trapped. Earth is not confirmed surrounded by a material structure, but observationally, signal-wise, visually, the planet is becoming isolated from the external universe. That is what the phrase means. The stars are not simply going out, Earth is being cut off from them. I'm going to say that again. The stars are not simply going out. Earth is being cut off from them. We have no instruction for the public. There is no movement that solves it, no room safer than another because of it, no supplies that fix it, no road leading away from it. It is an event happening to the relationship between Earth and everything beyond Earth, and we are all inside that relationship. We are now receiving reports that the remaining visible stars in the northern sky have fallen below 10% of expected density at dark sky locations. Eastern sky below 20%, western sky below 25%. Southern fields dropping rapidly. The Milky Way is no longer visible in most reporting sites where it should be. Outer system telemetry is effectively unavailable except in brief fragments. One fragment was recovered from an outer system asset before signal loss. It contains no image data, only a diagnostic packet. The packet reportedly repeated a system phrase, signal path obstructed. That may simply be a machine's ordinary diagnostic language, but tonight ordinary diagnostic language can sound like prophecy. Signal path obstructed, light path obstructed, sky path obstructed. Everything trying to reach us from far away is finding a closed road. Mara, I'm going to ask you for one final longer thought before we stay with the closing updates.
I keep thinking about the first listener message John read tonight. The man who said he went outside just to check whether the sky was still there. At the time, it sounded almost funny in a nervous way. Of course, the sky was still there. You go outside, you look up, there it is. Maybe cloudy. Maybe polluted by city light, maybe full of stars. But there, and now hours later, I understand that message differently. He was not checking the stars. He was checking the one thing he did not know he trusted. And that is what tonight has taken from people, not just light. Trust that far away things remain far away. Trust that the universe is open even if we never reach most of it. Trust that tomorrow night, the same old lights will still be waiting. Maybe this event will stop. Maybe the stars will return. Maybe by morning scientists will have words that make tonight less impossible. I hope so. I really do. But even if the stars come back, something has already changed, because now we know the sky can be taken from us. Not the atmosphere, not the weather, the sky. The deep sky, the beyond. And I think that knowledge will stay. Every time people look up now, some part of them will remember the night the universe stopped answering.
We have another update. Remaining visible stellar sources now declining across all reporting sectors. The Southern Hemisphere networks are reporting rapid density collapse. The northern sky in dark sky regions is now described as near total external source loss. Near total, the remaining stars are being tracked individually, but again, the pace is too fast for public naming. Several bright stars remain visible in scattered regions. Some planets remain visible where above horizon. And in daylight regions, the sun remains normal. This is important. The sun remains normal. But almost everything beyond the local solar system is disappearing from view, not dimming as a whole. Disappearing by paths, by sectors, by direction, by some geometry no one understands. We are getting reports now from urban areas that even people who normally see only a handful of stars are noticing the absence. That may sound impossible because city skies are already sparse, but the brightest points that city dwellers depend on are now being affected too. A man in Chicago says, "There were 3 stars above my building. Now there is 1. A woman in Toronto says, "I never thought I would know enough about the sky to know it was wrong, but I know." A listener in Madrid writes, "The sky looks close. The sky looks close." That phrase is everywhere now. Close, not dark. Close, as if the depth has collapsed, as if the night is no longer a window but a ceiling. That may be the most common description now. A ceiling. People are saying the sky looks like a ceiling. We have a new phrase from the Scientific Coordination Desk, observable universe access approaching null in multiple external sectors. That is not meant for ordinary people. That is technical language escaping into a terrified world. It means there are directions where we can no longer observe the universe beyond the solar system. Access approaching zero, null, nothing returns. We are now just receiving a live note from one of the last clear high-altitude sky cameras in the northern network. The operator writes, "There are no stars in the main field. A camera pointed at a field that should contain thousands of stars is returning none. Other cameras are now reporting the same. The star field is failing. Not thinning FA. I'm going to reset one last time. You are listening to Fictional Radio. I'm John Vale, here with Mara Ellison. An unexplained astronomical event began tonight with 3 missing stars in the Draco region. It expanded into a broadening occlusion zone, then multiple sky density lost regions, then deep space signal degradation, then confirmed external celestial isolation. Vega and multiple other named stars are no longer visible from Earth. The Milky Way has disappeared from many reporting sites. Outer system probes are losing telemetry. Multiple sky sectors now show external visibility failure. The solar system remains observable. The sun, moon, planets, and near-Earth systems remain intact and functional, but the stars beyond are almost gone. Earth is still here, but the universe has been taken out of the sky. We have the latest global report. Northern external sky failed. Eastern external sky failing. Southern external sky, severe attenuation. Equatorial observation, rapidly declining. Outer system telemetry, unavailable across most assets. Deep space background radio sources, non-resolving. Galaxy surveys, no external recurrent and failed sectors. The term now is full external celestial blackout. Full external celestial blackout, not total darkness. The moon can still shine, the planets can still reflect. The sun can still rise, but the stars are gone in the affected sectors. And the affected sectors are now nearly all sectors. We have reports from people in daylight regions who are saying they feel strangely disconnected from the event because the sun is still out where they are. That is understandable. If it is day where you are, the world may look ordinary. Blue sky, clouds, traffic, work, people carrying groceries, children at school, a normal day under a normal sun. But as Earth turns, night will arrive, and the stars may not be preparing people for night without stars, not because of clouds, not because of light pollution, not because of smoke. Night without stars, because the stars can no longer reach us. We have a final public statement from the Office of Civil Continuity for this hour. Quote, residents should prepare for the possibility of abnormal night sky appearance across all regions. This condition does not require immediate protective action. Essential services remain operational. Do not travel unnecessarily for observational purposes. Do not approach scientific, military, transmission, or restricted facilities. Further updates will continue at regular intervals. End quote. Abnormal night sky appearance. That is the phrase they're giving the public. Abnormal night sky appearance, the gentle phrase, the phrase people can put on a phone alert without causing a stampede. But everyone knows what it means now. The stars are gone or going. We are now receiving confirmation from Southern Hemisphere networks. Southern external sky density has collapsed below 15%. Then below 10, there are local variations, but the trend is unmistakable. This is global. The last major external star fields are failing. The few remaining bright points are being tracked in real time. Some may be planets, some may be aircraft, some may be satellites, some may be the last stars. People are no longer sure what they are looking at, and that is how the stars leave us, apparently. Not with one final blaze, but with confusion, with people pointing upward and asking, is that one? Is that one still there? Was that a star or a plane? Was there something there before? Did it just move? Did it just vanish? The oldest map in human history is being erased faster than we can read it. We have another telemetry fragment. This one is very short. It came from one of the outer system assets before signal loss. Again, machine diagnostic language. No voice, no image, just status. External reference unavailable. External reference unavailable, that is what a machine says when it cannot find the stars it uses to know where it is. And now that phrase belongs to all of us. External reference unavailable. We cannot look outward to know where we are. We can only look here. Earth, moon, sun, the near planets. The small lit neighborhood still left to us. Everything beyond it is closing or closed. Mara.
I'm here.
Are you seeing anything from listeners?
Mostly the same message now, different words. Same message, I can't see them. I can't see any. The sky is empty. My dad says he remembers more stars. My child asked where they went. My wife is crying. The moon looks lonely. That one keeps coming up too. The moon looks lonely. Because now it does. The moon is still there in places where it is above the horizon. Bright, familiar, close. And without the stars around it, it looks less like part of the sky and more like something left behind. Maybe that is what we feel too, left behind.
Thank you. We have the global confirmation. I'm going to read it exactly. Quote, full external celestial blackout confirmed across all reporting night side sectors. No external stellar sources are resolving through verified optical networks. Remaining visible sky objects are limited to local solar system bodies, artificial satellites, aircraft atmospheric phenomena, and unverified residual sources. Deep space telemetry is unavailable. Cause unknown. End quote. Full external celestial blackout. No external stellar sources resolving deep space telemetry unavailable. Cause unknown. That is the report. The stars are gone from the night side of Earth, not the moon, not the planets, not satellites. The stars, the external universe, gone from view. I don't have a better way to say it. The night sky has closed. There is no public action to take. That remains the official guidance. There is no direct surface hazard, no atmospheric hazard, no radiation warning, no gravity disruption, no solar anomaly, no impact, no invasion, no visible object, no explanation. Just absence, complete external absence. I want to say something plainly to anyone listening in the dark right now. You are still here. The people near you are still here. The ground is still beneath you. The air is still around you. The moon, if you can see it, is still the moon. The planets, if you can see them, are still the planets. The sun will rise where morning comes, but the old night sky is not there. Not tonight, maybe not tomorrow. We do not know, and I will not pretend we do. We are now getting the first reports from daylight-side solar observatories that the sun remains stable. Normal output, normal imaging, normal spectrum. Normal visible disk. I repeat, the sun remains normal. That is the strongest reassurance we have. The sun remains normal. Hold on, we have a new alert. This is from the Solar Monitoring Desk. It is marked preliminary. I'm reading it now. Quote, minor transient reduction in solar luminosity detected across multiple daylight-side instruments. Duration under 1 second. Cause undetermined. Immediate recheck underway. I'm going to read that again. Minor transient reduction in solar luminosity detected across multiple daylight-side instruments. Duration under 1 second. Multiple instruments detected it. Immediate recheck underway. No public action, but the sun flickered. We are waiting for clarification. The room is very quiet. Second bulletin, quote, transient solar luminosity reduction confirmed. Duration approximately 0.8 seconds. Solar output returned to expected levels. No associated flare, eclipse body, atmospheric cause, or instrument-wide calibration error identified. End quote. Confirmed the sun dimmed for 0.8 seconds. Then returned, no known cause, no eclipse body, no flare, no calibration explanation. I need to be careful here. The sun is currently normal. The sun returned to normal. There is no indication of sustained solar failure. There is no public safety action, but after the stars vanished, the sun flickered for less than 1 second. And every person who sees daylight today will now wonder whether daylight is guaranteed. That is what just happened. That is the line we have crossed. Not darkness, doubt about the sun. Okay, the sun is normal now, the stars are gone, the sun flickered, and we do not know why. That is the truth at this hour. We are going to stay on air as long as we can continue to provide verified updates. Human beings began the night looking up at an old sky, a sky full of distance, a sky full of light that had crossed years, centuries, millennia, just to reach the small, dark side of this planet. And one by one, those lights stopped arriving, then by region, then by sector. Then all at once, the probes went quiet. The galaxy vanished. The night became a ceiling. And for 1 full second, even the sun was no longer certain. Good night.